A hero can be anyone, even a man doing something as simple and reassuring as recording open betas, a podcast about the life of games and the game of life.
That's
Robin,
pretty good.
thanks. Thanks. Welcome to Open Betas, everybody.
It's
Hope
me,
you're having a
Regal.
good day. It's him, Regal,
Yep.
and me, Swimfan.
Where
How you doing today, Regal?
today is it's become a whirlwind of a day, but that's okay. I'm doing well.
Did you nail your meeting?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
Casual
Pretty good's
Thursday,
good.
casual Thursday meeting. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to hear more about my meeting? I can give you a rundown of my very interesting team meeting if you want.
Can you do it without revealing
No,
where you were?
not really.
Okay, well then maybe not. So today, listening audience, we are going to talk about sort of a continuation of last time when we were talking about saving and loading. We're going to talk about saving and loading as a real life superpower. What would that be like? And then get into other superpower related discussions. This is a big game of life episode.
Well, it could also be a. You would also think about these in terms of making a game, right? Because realistically, what's happening in a game is really you have a human character that has a couple superpowers, right?
Yes, true enough.
If you're making a
Yeah,
more
maybe I should be
realistic type
picking
game-
my Say again.
I was gonna say if you're making a game where the main character is like sort of more human-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or where it's like more of a realistic, like real life drama type story. It is. I think it is worth thinking about like what are the actual extents of what your superpower that you're giving the character does.
Yep. Okay.
But mostly we're
Yeah,
just gonna have
like
some
we
fun.
discussed. Yeah, yeah, like last time we talked about how saving and loading is kind of just a superpower that is present in I guess pretty much every game, with some exceptions.
Yeah.
And I guess to some extent immortality is as well.
But first, let's jump into our patch notes, which you actually had lined up.
Oh
this week.
yeah. I just thinking back to the religion episode, I just feel like I didn't give enough positive experiences with religion and positive thoughts about religion because I think in cases where it brings the community together and tries to align on what we believe in terms of how to live our lives and how to treat other people, I think it can be a good thing. It just doesn't always manifest that way in the real world. And I've had friends who are religious or Christian or devout Christian or devout in Judaism. That's about
Judaists.
it. Devout Judaists. Jewish people. And I'm thinking in particular about Christians because we talked so much about Christianity. And I had some friends I worked with who really did live by, they were really good people. I mean, they were, he was a good dude that actually believed in doing things for the good of the world and for people and, thinking about those who are less fortunate.
We went from I had friends who were Christian. That's always good.
Say again.
Well, your sentence started with I had a number of friends who were Christian, and then your sentence ended with he. So
yes, he.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of a particular one that is a paragon of positive Christianity.
Right.
But I've known a few others that are, have a positive relationships and are genuinely good people. It's not like the standard experience I've had, but it does exist.
So I guess I'll say one thing here, which is there's so much of what we think about religion is colored by, especially in America, the sort of current political, social climate, right?
Yeah.
The thing, I read something, so in baseball, and in hockey and in all American sports, really, there's been kind of more of a visible issue around Pride Night, where particular players are like protesting the existence of Pride Night or like this or that, something of that nature, right? Because of their religious beliefs. And obviously outside
Yeah,
of the
my
game groups are.
religious right to hate you. Yes.
Right. And there, I read something around the coverage of this that I thought was really, really summarized it really well, which was
Uh-huh.
one of the reporters basically wrote in an opinion piece like, I fail to see how Christian values basically prevent you from supporting gay people, right?
Uh-huh.
And I think that's a very good summary of where the spectrum of where Christianity views gay people. So I want to make it clear that I fully understand that, like, I don't know about vast majority, but a majority of Christians, at least, I won't speak for other religions
Hmm.
because I'm not nearly as knowledgeable.
Yeah.
A majority of Christians, uh, first of all, they come from all kinds of walks of life and are very different in how seriously they take their religion and where in their faith they are. But the majority of them, I think, and I think it is a literal majority, at least 50%, don't hate gay people. They're not really against the idea of like gay people existing. They're not really
Hmm.
like they're not really out to get gay people. They might think gay people are going to hell. They might struggle with
Hmm.
that personally,
Yeah.
but they're not out there voting against gay marriage. They're not out there trying to like remove recognition of gay people's existence in life. Just like they're not
Right.
trying to
Right.
do the same thing for Muslims, right? They also think Muslims are going to hell. They're not out there. Most of them are not out there like going after mosques and trying to, ban immigrants and things like that, right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, there are a lot of people who are just kind of just focused on their lives,
Right.
right? Like they don't go out of their way for all this.
And to be honest, in many
This shit.
ways,
Yeah.
the comment that like I fail to see how Christian values prevent you from supporting gay people is actually very true. Even if you consider the fact that, especially many pastors, and to some extent the Bible, although I think that's actually up for debate because we do a lot of things that the Old Testament does not allow. First of all, right?
Yeah, I mean, we are so, I say we, but they're so flexible with
Yes,
interpretations of the
exactly.
Bible and what is a legitimate story versus a non-legitimate
Right,
story
right.
to like
And so
learn from.
the passages that are usually quoted are very not clear things like marriage is made to be between a man and a woman or whatever, right? I think
Hmm.
that's a New Testament passage. Obviously in the Old Testament there were laws against having sex with the same gender, but there were also laws against having sex with animals and no laws against having sex with children. And like
Right, right.
we change our interpretation of those biblical verses for the mass majority of people, right? So while I do think, yeah, I do think it's not a fundamental problem with religion. Like I don't think the existence of religion of Christianity means that they have to hate gay people. I do think a lot of it is like political and what is taught
Well,
and
and
sort
it's
of
also
what
like
pastors lean into.
I feel these things. I feel these things, or I hate these people. I am going to look for a way for my religion to
Yeah.
support that.
Actually, do you know about eat the poo poo?
No.
This is a very old meme. This is from like
Uh-huh.
2010, 2009. There's this viral
Okay.
video of a African
Ancient
pastor
history. Hmm.
um about an African pastor who was like trying to explain to his constitution why gay people are evil, and
Hmm. Hmm.
he basically
Oh, I
showed
have heard this.
yeah
Yes, I
he
do
showed
remember
images
this.
of gay sex between two
Hmm.
men, and then it was like about like basically analingus, and then he to
Yes,
explain
yes.
what happened, he was like, sometimes they even eat the poo poo, and then obviously there's like
Right, right.
you're leaning to like the grossness reaction of that, right? Even though like
Yeah,
scatology
yeah.
is not
Coprophilia.
yeah, not really a common behavior, and it's also
No,
equally a common
they're
behavior among straight
unrelated.
people too.
Yes, yes.
By the way, Hitler was a renowned scat fetishist. Did you know this?
Oh, I didn't.
Uh,
Oh,
there's
interesting.
a quote from his journal about he was with his mistress, and he wrote
Uh-huh.
about how incredible it was to watch the human anus in action as she pooped on him, like pooped on
Ugh.
his chest.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think this may be the best part about him.
Yeah, he was very forward thinking.
Yeah, yeah. He wasn't too locked into just traditional. It wasn't just missionary and that's it. There's shit involved.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note, those are our thoughts on religion and the
Yeah.
positive parts of religion. So there you
Uh-huh.
go.
All right. You want to jump into the rules here?
Yeah, let's do it. So we're gonna talk about superpowers. So what we're gonna we had one lined up because we were thinking about save and load from last time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so what we're just gonna do is just gonna talk about what the rules are and of the particular superpower and how and what would happen if we had them in real life or whatever direction we want to take it. Now
Yeah,
there's
and I want to get into like the reality of it. I think
yeah,
like how would this actually play out?
exactly,
Because as we discussed before, it's often not thought through
exactly.
to that level, and I think it's fun to do that.
And on that note, I want to talk about this idea why I hate a lot of superpower questions like would you rather
Mm,
questions, right? Because many of
okay.
them are very poorly defined. So I think one good example is if you are a comic book person, the
Mm-hmm.
Flash, uh, if you think of, there's the Flash that you know as like a side character, and there's the Flash if you really like delve into his character books. Not that I've done this, but
Mm-hmm.
I've heard from someone who did. And it's actually, if you actually think about it too much, the act of running really fast and being way faster than other people has a lot of problems that so
Okay.
you may not know this, but the Flash as a superhero is like crazy overpowered. It's not just that he can run fast. The only way they could explain him running fast is that he like experiences time slower than other people. So because of
Right.
that,
Right.
now he has like a permanent superbolic time chamber. He's like studied every language in the world. He's learned everything. He can like learn to do
Uh,
anything faster than anybody
so
else.
time goes that slowly for him all the time. Like he can read faster and shit like
I
that.
don't know the details, but
Okay.
I think that's the general idea. Yeah, like he can just go
Yeah,
as fast as he wants.
that fits. Yeah, and even often one of his powers is running so fast he can travel in time,
Right, exactly. Which
whatever
they
that
don't need
means.
to give him all that. Let's to make him a
Mm-hmm.
good character, but I think that's a good example of what if you don't think enough about how to define your superpower, that can happen. The
There was a
other,
scene I liked in uh the is it the Justice League, the newer DC movie that I think did terribly a few years ago.
yep,
Uh,
I know what you're talking about.
Zack Snyder, and
Yep, I love Zack
in one
Snyder.
scene, the team is fighting a confused slash evil Superman, and the Flash is basically fighting him, and we see it in slow motion, where everyone but the Flash is moving in slow motion, so we're experiencing time like he does. And so he's like going up to Superman and dodging as Superman like slowly is throwing punches and stuff. But he's still really fast, so he can do stuff faster than other people as well. But I don't know. It's a really cool scene because it sort of demonstrates what you're saying.
Um, is this Bizarro?
No. Okay, so here the
Okay,
quick
no.
context
Okay,
is
no.
okay. All
It's
right,
okay.
it's not bizarre.
I
No.
was trying to flex my DC knowledge there, but I guess it's
Is so
not.
isn't Bizarro kind of like he's not exactly an anti-Superman. He's more like a dumb monster
I
Superman.
think so. That is my
Okay.
understanding. Uh,
Yes.
all right. So the other example I want to give of a very badly defined superpower is flight. Right. This is normally the other superpower that people come up with. Like, would you rather do X or fly? Flight as
Hmm.
a superpower for a human is really bad unless you really sketch out exactly what it does. So, for example,
Yeah, your body and the physics that act upon it would have to also be super for flight.
right.
Same with the Flash too. Like running that fast,
Yes.
like the physics of it would destroy your body in real life.
That's why he has to experience time slowly rather than just being able to run fast, right?
Right. So he's not
Yeah.
actually okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Why not?
But yeah, flight, I mean, obviously there's very basic things like cold and oxygen, right? Like we're not
Yeah.
able to breathe when we're flying. And obviously the answer most people give when you ask these questions is like, oh, you're just like invulnerable. It's like, oh, well, that's the real superpower, right? If I'm
Yeah.
suddenly
That can't
immune to
be.
cold and like crash landings, then okay, I don't care about the flying part. I'll just take that, right?
Yeah. Maybe you could just say to sort of wave it away. You could say, well, I'm immune to all of these things in context of when I fly.
Right.
You know what I
But
mean?
then it's like, oh, so I really just need to be flying like all the time. I
Right,
need to
because I
get
could
ready.
fly into space
Yeah.
and without oxygen, or I
Right.
could fly into the ocean or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's also other things like how fast can you go when you fly? That's sort of the same
Mm-hmm.
problem as the Flash, but if you're going
Yeah.
at walking speed in the air, it's actually not very useful, right? I mean, you can't
No,
do
just fun.
even ignoring all the social problems of you like going up there and coming down. It's like it's
Hmm.
it's not really going to get you anywhere very quickly, generally speaking. I mean, you can skip traffic, I guess.
Yeah, you could skip traffic. That's not nothing.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean the big one with flight we discussed is like the notoriety.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you'd have to have if you combined flight with invisibility,
Mm-hmm.
maybe.
Yep.
Maybe I could see that being fun or useful, but it's like in reality, what would you even use that for most of the time? Getting to work fast?
So that's actually related to something we'll talk about, but there's much better ways, let's say, to get to work fast.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't
It's not like
involve,
I could catch someone. I'd have to
yeah,
be strong as well.
right. And then there's also other physical problems like takeoff and landing, right? Like you can't. How do you get up that high? Can you just do you now have super jump powers too? And then when you land, like, are you able to like slow down and land,
Yeah, like Superman.
safely? Do you have strong legs? Like, what is going on here? So
Right, right. And do I destroy? Is there an opposite reaction when I take off that like destroys whatever's behind me or
right,
below me?
right. Because if you could do
I hope
that,
so.
you can just use that horizontally, and that seems a lot more useful actually. Because
But being able to dodge things
yeah,
at that speed, uh, only in the Flash's situation do I get that, right?
that's
Like,
well, yeah,
because it feels like you just run into people and cars
that's
and you
true.
just fuck
Yeah.
them or you up. Which is part of what they play out in the show The Boys. There's a Flash analog
Okay.
who uh, murders many people just accidentally running through them on the street.
Yeah, most superpowers do result in you murdering a lot of people. Also, that's part of the
Yeah,
fun, I
that show
guess.
is
But
kind of about that
yeah,
idea.
yeah,
Like, what if these powers were real and how deadly they would really be?
interesting. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's part of the fun. Like if you ever played a game like, what ability do you want from a League of Legends hero or a Dota hero? I mean, obviously most of the abilities are made to kill people, so like all
Yeah,
you
I
can
want
really do
dunking power.
is murder people.
Dunks.
All right, let's talk about superpower number one, which is
Mm.
saving and reloading as a superpower. So here are the rules. You, so the I think the only so the reason I came up with this is that it's actually surprisingly well defined. It's actually pretty easy to make this not problematic. You just have to replace your brain with like magic mass, right?
Okay,
So
that's easy. Yeah.
instead of making, I do that all the time actually. Every Tuesday, I go to my magic mass therapy. I replace this part of my brain with magic.
You're getting there.
So when the reason you have to do this is that like your brain can't be made of neurons anymore because you have to like maintain your memories or whatever, right? So it's like your brain is magical, but everything else is the same. So your body is the same, and if you die, you die. And I think this is the key that
Peak
makes
condition.
it right.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, it depends on when you save, actually, because
It does, yeah.
but
it doesn't make a huge difference for my life, but yeah.
well, you could have made it.
It'll just get worse, I guess.
Yeah, you could have made a different direction earlier. But the idea is,
Right,
if you
right,
die,
right.
you die, and I think this is the key that makes it more interesting to think about than Groundhog Day, because you're no longer like you don't really necessarily get
I
bored.
can't try anything.
And you can't try anything, yeah, because if you die, you die. And then you have to do something physical, like I don't know, make a like touch a tattoo over your heart or whatever, or something like that.
Yeah, or say load file 1.
Yeah, you have to do a physical action to reload.
Mm-hmm.
And as originally stated, you could only have one save slot, which means at some point you could save by doing a thing, and then at any point later you can reload and go straight back, physical body and everything to your basically saved state. So your body goes back to the way it was, everything in the world goes back to the way it was, but you keep your memories, and that's it.
Right,
and your
right. I got
knowledge.
any memories or knowledge skills that
Yeah,
I've learned.
yeah. And you
Right.
lose. I
I
guess you would
mean,
lose like
can you
muscle memory.
overwrite if you want to save again
Yes,
later, or is
yes.
this the one thing?
So you can overwrite. You can
Okay.
save whenever you want, and you can reload whenever you want, right? But you
Mm-hmm.
can't get old saves back.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So you propose that,
That's tough.
right? So you propose that. What if we had multiple saves? And I think that would work, but if we have more than one save, the dominant strategy becomes very obvious. The right thing to
Go on.
do with multiple saves is say, especially if you have three. So if you have three, I think the first one should go as early as humanly possible. So
Uh-huh.
if anything bad happens later, you can just go back to the very beginning, right? And you never
Very
touch that
safe
save.
spot.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
second one would go in your last like big checkpoint moment, whatever one that is. It's like, hey, next I want to go back to when I graduated college, or when I
Mm-hmm.
first got enough money in my bank account to do whatever, or when I got married or whatever, right?
Right.
Uh,
It having two or three though opens up the ability to have a save on a day that was just really nice, right? Like I just want to relive a really good day.
well, you can still do that with one save. You just have to
I mean, you
be
can. It
really
just
careful about it.
you're giving up some other cool
Right,
things that you
exactly.
do, right?
Exactly. So basically, and then the third, whatever the flexible slot is the one you would just use whenever, right? Like you want to retry. You could use it every day. Like I want to be like, hey, I really want to accomplish some big thing tomorrow. Let me retry it over and over. And if something goes back, I can always go to the beginning.
Right. Yes. Or I could start every day with the best sex I've ever had.
Sure. But here's the thing. What if you couldn't do that? What if you only had one save? You couldn't do all of
Okay.
the things that we've been thinking about.
Yeah, what would I do?
What would you do? So I think here are your big options, right?
Uh-huh.
One is to just save after the checkpoints that we talked about. Which
Checkpoints that I'm happy with?
yeah, so it's like, hey, it's like you save before you get into college, right? So let's say your 1st one, you enter high school, and then you play out high school like 20 times, and then and then after 20 times you're like, hey, that was the best high school's ever gonna go. Got everything I wanted at the high school. I'm gonna save now and do the same thing in college, right? You go into college as like
So I'm trying to maximize
like stages,
the
right?
the satisfaction or the accomplishments of each stage, and then be like, yeah, I got that right. I'm gonna bank it.
Yep.
But
And then hold on,
so we run into the oh, sorry, you go
one more
ahead.
thing, and then at some point you say, this is it, right? I'm gonna just come back to this spot in my life for the foreseeable future. And the amount of times you replay things, or the amount of times you save, goes down as time goes on, right?
Right. There's probably a point where I'm old enough that I have shit that I want, but young enough that I can still walk around and do stuff.
Exactly.
Do what I want.
Maybe like 35. Because if you do this, you would imagine that you'd be giga successful, right? You could probably retire at 35, 40.
Yeah. Well,
like
I'm trying to think. When you only have one save, yeah. I mean, you could just invest in something.
You would invest in something. I mean, basically what would happen is like if you wanted to go the white collar route, you would just you would have like all the fun you wanted in high school. You would get into the best college possible and probably like do a couple other things, right? And then you'd save, and then you'd go into all of college, and you'd be able to like graduate in 2 years, and at the same time like finagle your way into some money somehow. You probably figure out a way to get some money at that point, right? And then like get a job for 2
I mean,
years,
honestly,
invest in something.
And yeah, I mean, just spending a week looking at the stock market and going back that week and betting on it would be very.
Now we'll talk about that
rich.
because that's a dangerous strategy, right?
Oh,
we'll talk about it.
I mean, I'd have to figure out how to get the money at that age, but
right, that's one.
Eventually, I could do it. Yeah.
We'll talk about it in the next section. But I think if you wanted to completely legitimately do it, you would do some kind of startup in college, right? Like every time you replay college, you'd know you'd be like, okay, I know I need to target these people. These people I can convince to like do my startup. I do a startup, and if it succeeds, if it doesn't succeed, it doesn't matter. I start over, right?
So this is like I wanna actually create something though,
Well,
because that's not the fastest way to money.
that's true. We'll talk about it. But if you want to do the
Okay, okay.
safest route, you would
Mm-hmm.
probably do some kind of startup. I think it would be like you get into the best college possible. You try to acquire some money and have all your fun in high school. You go to college. You figure out the best way to get a startup in college, and you sell it for like $100 million or whatever by at age like 26, and then
Mm-hmm.
you're good, right?
Yeah.
Something
Okay.
like that. And then maybe you
I get
save.
that.
You know,
I feel like I'd still have to work more than I want
yeah,
in that
yeah,
scenario.
maybe. Okay, but that's one option. Okay,
Okay.
here's the second option, which is what you are basically hinting at, which is what if you take the most aggressive, highest risk option, knowing that you won't fail, or you can fail at a later time, or that like you get the lowest. So basically, you bet on the stock market, or you bet in stock, or you win the lottery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you commit crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
all of these are the quickest ways to get the most bang for your buck because they're the highest risk options, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Because I can risk is nothing if I can restore.
Right.
Load.
Or
Yeah.
is it? So
What?
here's the thing, right? So let's sketch out a basic scenario, right? So you save, you rob a bank, but you have a very
Mm-hmm.
low chance of success when you rob the bank,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to retry this day. Let's say for the first time, no one expects it, so you're safe. You're not gonna die. But you have to retry this day like 100 times, maybe like 500 times to successfully
Mm-hmm.
rob the
Mm-hmm.
bank, right? Because you have to first
Okay.
get your stuff, and then you have to like get the money and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Now because it was a low probability outcome, you have to save again, right? Otherwise, if you fail the next step, you have to go back to the beginning and do your 1 in 500 or 1 in 100 to rob the bank again every time, right?
Right.
I mean, you don't have to, but at some
So
point
if anything else goes wrong, I won't have that bank banked.
right. I guess
Okay.
that's a risk, right? You could become a really good bank robber, but that sounds like a lot of work,
Mm-hmm.
right, over a lot of time.
Yeah, and I mean with crimes, you also run into actual,
Right.
you could hurt or I don't know, scare
Yeah.
people at the very
Or
least.
you could die, right? This is where it's important
Or I could die. Yeah.
this is where it's important that you die when you die, because the police are going to get called on some of these and they might just shoot you, right? Especially if you're in America. So
Yeah. That sort of crime is just not real. I don't view that as an actual quick
Mhm.
way to get
okay,
rich quick.
right. But here's the
Compared to
thing
some
is you
other
have to
things.
get, depending where you're starting, you have to get your capital from somewhere, right? Because if you want to invest in the stock
Mm-hmm.
market, you have to the stocks don't double in price overnight, right? You can't really just like do a bunch of perfect micro trades and get 100% return or whatever. You need a large sum of money to start with that you can like parlay, right?
Yeah, over some time.
Right.
Although if you look for and catch those events that are huge skyrocketing days, I mean they do exist that you
Yeah,
could
yeah, you
bet
can.
around.
And maybe with enough experience, you'll find out when those days are.
Yeah,
But I would still think that you have to start with like you have to get like $100,000 from somewhere.
right. Where's my seed money
Yeah,
from?
you need like more money than you can reasonably get as a high schooler living normally, right?
Yeah, unless I reveal myself, and I wouldn't
Right.
want to do that, right?
Well, the thing is, so in real life, when someone earns like when someone makes 15 times their investment back in the stock market, they don't
Mm-hmm.
get to stay anonymous, really, right? Especially if it's a large amount of money.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely.
Well,
If you
okay.
have money, you can be as anonymous as you want. In the stock market,
Maybe.
you can absolutely be. There are the shell. You just get a shell company or whatever.
Okay, so
Hire a lawyer to do it in their name.
now we're talking about you have that's after you get your money though, right?
Uh huh.
So I mean, there's ways
You
you can
mean
do,
that
but
I'd have the money to do
yeah,
that? Right, right.
but I agree.
I'm
There,
trying to think. I don't like. I mean, if you're doing something that is ridiculously big, like just a huge, strange moves and consistently doing them, I could see you getting noticed and
yeah,
getting audited or whatever. But I don't know, I feel like I could play the field well enough and diversify well enough where it's just not that
right.
obvious.
You would have to decide what your target is, right? If it's like $10 million, I think you'll be fine. But if you want more than that, then that's when it can get difficult, right?
Yeah, so you're saying if I start,
If you want to be a
uh,
billionaire, is what I'm kind of looking at here.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I agree with that. Sure. Although again, there are a lot of anonymous billionaires.
Yes, but someone. So,
At least the government notices them, huh?
yeah, the government knows, and it's not like they're going to get arrested, but there is some risk. So I would put it this way. So sports books. This is the Back to the Future thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sports
Hey, you
books.
saw a movie.
I did not see back. I just know about the plot
Uh,
for this one specific instance.
that's yeah, okay.
Uh,
That's part two.
I see. Anyway, so if you in real life, actually, if you bet on a sports book or any kind of gambling
Mm-hmm.
agency, at least in the U.S., there's actually a surprisingly large and robust number of layers that flag you if they think something suspicious happened for insider trading purposes.
Interesting.
Right. So, for example, a lot of NFL players get caught betting on games, which is not allowed by the league, by like government or third-party agencies, and they're
Uh-huh.
tracking stuff like GPS data and like location and timing. It's
But
actually
those are people that are known
yes,
known entities that have insider info.
but the other thing that gets flagged is if a very suspicious bet comes in. So if a very large
Uh-huh.
bet comes in on something that's out of the way, right? It would be like
Mm-hmm.
they would not necessarily take your money, or they would like limit the amount of money you would take, and you would get investigated. Now, you don't have to do that. You can just you can just bet on the Super Bowl, right? No one's gonna blink if you bet a large amount of money in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
That's
or I invest in Apple and
Apple. See,
Amazon
but the,
and
the thing is, if you invest in Apple or Google or Amazon, you're going to be waiting a long time to get your money back compared to how fast you could have it.
sure, depending on when I do
You're
that.
gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna be waiting like 3 years at least, right? And maybe like 6 years if you want the maximum return or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's not bad though.
yeah, and if that's what you want, then that's fine. I guess there's no section here for becoming like a millionaire over 6 years easily.
But I mean that would be a goal, right? Like I mean I would want to be
Mhm.
just financially not have to worry about money
Yeah.
ever again.
So I guess as an
But like
alternative,
going to the next step, like was you're talking about
yeah,
trying to be a billionaire or being like a philanthropist, for
yeah,
example, you're getting
yes.
attention that maybe you don't want.
I think that's where it is. So I guess the main point I want to make is the more criminal or suspicious things you do, the higher risk you run of getting in a death loop, basically. Because I think what can happen is if you're saving after every success, right? You are going to be saving before you know what the consequences are. So
Right, there may be long-term unforeseen
right. So you might
consequences.
you might think you got away scot-free in the bank robbery, right? Or in
Uh-huh.
bank robbery number 57, but
Yeah.
you don't know exactly what the FBI or what the detectives have as evidence in that case. It may not show up for
Yeah,
5 years.
like a year later they
Yeah.
finally get a DNA match on the semen
Yeah.
sample and they track me down.
Sure. I I wouldn't recommend robbing banks with semen, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But that's
Okay.
basically the risk you run, right? The more risky things you do, the more risk you run of being stuck. So, for example, it'd be like, oh shit, the authorities are onto me way faster than I thought. So let's say you get
Uh-huh.
arrested on some day, right? And you go back
Uh-huh.
and you're like, oh well, I got arrested. It's time to reload my save. I got busted.
Uh-huh.
But you can only go back a
It
month.
still happens.
Yeah, if you go back a month, there's not a ton you can do about it, right? You have to go on the run, basically.
Yeah, at which point you're fucked.
Right. I mean, you're not necessarily fucked, but it's a very different life than what you thought you had, and you probably lose a lot of the
Yeah.
assets you gained, right?
Yeah, that would not be a great life, I think.
But that's basically the main point, is that like the riskier you become, the more fucked you get. And I think this is where a lot of the fun tension of having only one save comes in, because you don't have the opportunity to just go back to the beginning. You have to commit.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I do think I think there are legitimate examples of what you're saying. I nonetheless, I still think I could figure out a method of getting money,
Yeah.
whether it's betting on roulette or whatever, and spreading it out enough that I could get to like a comfortable level.
Right.
I think you may be right about like this guy is a billionaire because he made all these crazy bets. Like,
Yeah,
maybe
I
I'll
think
get
that
targeted by
would
somebody.
flag a lot of things, right? And at best, you could spin it as like you're a stock market wizard, but then you have to keep proving it, or like you're gonna basically, if it's the stock market, you're gonna get invested very heavily for insider trading, right? Because it's gonna look, because that's exactly what you're doing. You have inside information. So
How could I have it on all these different things, though, Regal?
yeah, how could you have it? But the police
They're
are gonna
gonna
come and try to figure it out, right?
I'm gonna crack open my head and
Yeah.
see what's going
And
on.
I think you'll probably be fine. I don't think they're gonna like arrest you and like put you in Oracle cell or whatever, right? But it's risky.
I've always wondered with the lottery, is there any way to say, you know what, I want to be anonymous, or do you have to say because it's part of their like marketing,
good
right?
question.
Like, this guy won. This
How
normal
often do
dude.
people actually win the lottery?
I mean, I would think fairly frequently, but it's just that so many people are playing. It's not. The chances are so infinitesimal.
You know, like maybe winning the lottery is the way to go. Because
Yeah.
like you actually have full control over winning the lottery, right? You just pick the right number.
You just pick the right number, and you can, and people don't really suspect that sort
Yeah.
of thing. It can just be anyone. It can be literally anyone.
Maybe the right thing to do is just win the lottery, like delete all your friends, right? Win the lottery.
Kill them?
No, not kill them. Just like cut off all your friends, right? Go somewhere. Okay, I think.
Why is that necessary?
Because then they're not going to ask you for money, right?
Oh. Well, if you have friends before you have money, you're talking about like you want to keep it a secret forever.
I guess so. I guess it's worth talking about. I don't know if that's necessary. That was kind of my assumption, but maybe it's not.
I mean, that is an interesting point. I mean, it would be tough to. I mean, over time, it would be clear you had money, but
Right.
maybe just not how much.
No, you know what? That's actually a good point though, because especially when you're living like California or whatever, like you meet a lot of people that are like, oh, this person has a lot of money, but you don't really treat them any differently for it, right? I guess that's
I like to say I don't, but I mean, I think a lot of people try to suck up to those people and get something out of them.
Right.
So
I mean, I guess what I mean is like they don't really demonstrate that they have a lot of money. They're not really flashy with it, but like.
Oh yeah, they are. What do you mean?
Not all of them are, is what I mean.
Not all of them. Okay.
Haven't you
There's
met?
plenty of people
Haven't you met a bunch of people
ostentatious.
who are like probably like millionaires, but just act like normal people?
Who play it down?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Not like Mr. Peanut.
Sure. Okay.
So with that, actually, let's move on. Let's
Okay.
move on.
We'll come back and talk about.
Oh,
each
actually,
of
no,
these.
I got it.
Okay.
I gotcha. So I was just gonna say, like, if you got friends before that, then you could no, then you'd still never know for sure. Yeah, that's tough. The whole "who's my real friend" thing when you're rich is
Right.
or powerful is.
But like, I think that's okay. Like, I
sounds
think
tough.
that's something you can handle, right? Because you have multiple tries at it. So to be honest, you can just like try to live out your life normally, and then figure out over the next 5 years who is not actually your friend, and then like go back to after you win the lottery, and then cultivate your friends list at that point, right?
That's true.
I think that's something you can
okay. That's okay.
So
yeah, I like it.
actually, I think this isn't a scenario I consider, but I think the one timer get rich quick is a pretty good scenario to consider, like where it's like you do one thing like winning the lottery that gets you rich, and then you don't have to worry about money again, and then you go do other stuff.
And I don't do anything
Yeah,
suspicious ever again,
exactly.
other than spend it.
Spend the money. Yeah, I love spending
Yeah.
money.
Woo.
Okay, another option.
What's the Powerball up to?
Another option is
Hey,
to.
where would you before you do that?
Hmm.
Where would you get your seed money if you wanted to, in high school or college, try to like? I guess
Get
the lottery
rich?
is not the in the question of like the stock market thing, or betting.
Where would I get my seed money? It's a good question. Yeah, it's hard because there's really not that many options if you think about it. If you don't want to do something really risky.
Yeah, because I had rich relatives where that money was maybe there,
Yeah,
but
and I didn't, so that's
how?
still.
In my case, though, how would I get it without? Like, I could prove to my dad, for example, that I can save and reload, but
Ooh,
then
do you
what is
want
he
to
going to do with
that?
that
Actually, you
information?
can't.
Yeah, exactly.
You actually can't prove that to him, right? Because when you reload, he loses all his memories from after.
No, just say, Dad, think of a word. Okay, tell me the word,
Oh,
and then do that.
okay. Your dad's
And
pretty
do that 10
gullible.
times in a row.
Okay.
Do it as many times as he needs.
Okay. Well, anyway, I don't think that would be. The thing is, like, you don't. I feel like you don't want to tell people about it, right? Like, I feel like it's.
I agree. I agree.
I feel like it's just inherently super risky to tell anybody about it because then they could.
So I'd have to.
Then they could.
And even if
figure
I
out ways
had
to
money,
stop
like
it, right?
they'd figure out ways to stop
Or
you
they could try
or
to
take
kill
advantage
you.
of you.
Yeah, or they could try to kill you, right?
You'd have to really trust a family member, and I don't.
Right.
I think neither of us have that, but maybe somebody else would be like, yeah, my sister would work with me or whatever. But
I do think winning
I
the
would
lottery,
not trust anyone.
winning the lottery is the way to go. You just have to pick one where it's not like you probably don't want to win like Giga Powerball or whatever, but you want to pick one where it's like you win the
Why
jackpot.
not?
Well, I mean, you could if you wanted to, because like the bigger amount, the more work you have to do afterwards to clean it up, right? That's how I feel. Maybe that's wrong, but like if you win something that's like national news or like world news, I feel like
Right, and you have to be like shown. Your name has to be
Yeah.
out there.
that's where like isn't some American lottery is at like $1 billion or whatever now, isn't it? Like if you won that,
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Like half a billion
half
is
a
the
billion.
jackpot for Powerball.
like
Yeah.
that's okay. Like I think you can
But you have
handle it,
you have the
but
perfect excuse though,
right, you do.
Like I guess I wonder, do
You lit-
lottery winners get
You
investigated?
literally just get lucky. No, I mean I feel like they literally can't, right? You just
Yeah, like
you don't
what
have
do
to
you
explain
investigate?
anything. You just like I just picked 6 numbers. What do you want from me?
Yeah, this is my favorite numbers. These
But
are my measurements.
but I would say
6 of them.
it depends on what you want out of it, but I don't think I need $500 million to do what I want for the rest of
I don't think so, unless I really wanted to really
Right.
affect the world,
Right.
which is sort of another level
That's where-
over.
that's-
I want to have a good life.
That's the last one. Yeah, but unless you wanted to do that, I think you could just win like $25 million and be news in your
you're
state
set for
and your
life for
town.
that.
Yeah.
As long as you're not living on a yacht, buying crazy nouveau riche stuff.
Right. And this is where the problem happens of like how do you deal with your family, because if you do it too young, like your family is gonna have it actually. Like they can just take it from you, right? And like sue you for your
I don't think you can play the lottery as a kid, right?
I don't think so either, right? But
Probably not.
maybe not. But anyways,
But yeah, you're right. You couldn't do it until you were
right.
age of majority.
Anyway, yeah. Basically, the bigger the number is, the more work you have to do after, which is fine. Like I think if you practice enough and get good enough at it, you can do all the work that's needed to sort of go back to normal after that. But
Yeah, and I get it. Like I know I've read stories about like family and friends, hitting you up for money
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
So that is something to consider. I want to look into after this how possible it is to win a lottery like anonymously, because I wonder if it is at all.
I think if it's like a state lottery for
Uh-huh.
like a jackpot of like $20 million or whatever, I think that's pretty anonymous. I think you could get away with that pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But we'll see. Yeah, we'll do some research and come back to it.
Anyway, let's move on.
Okay, so what if here's another alternative? You could try to mostly live a normal life, because you don't have to use the superpower. Like one of the things I'll talk about is like, even if with a superpower, you're going to die eventually, right? You're not immortal. So you don't have to use it. You can just live your normal life if that's what you want. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But occasionally use it to go on a bender. Okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
So what are some benders you would want to go on with a superpower, Swimfan? Tell me about them.
I mean, on a simple side, I could just, well, here's the thing. Can I just like stay up all night playing video games and then reload and go to sleep? Yeah, that would be fun.
That would be it.
Nice.
But here's the problem though. You'll lose your progress in the video game.
Yeah, I would have to beat the video game or something like that,
or you have to
right?
playing like League of Legends. But you see, the thing is like you'd also lose your, you better only do it for fun, essentially.
You're right. Yeah, you'd lose progress, and there's no getting around that with a lot of games. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to try a lot of drugs. I mean, I think it would depend on. I think I would have to be careful and really do my research about what is an overdose for all kinds of things.
But I think you could do a pretty
like with drinking too. Like I can't. I feel like we've discussed this. I can't drink that much anyway. Like I don't get a lot out of drinking because I get sick after like 3 drinks. Do you have the flush, the gene?
No, I don't actually, but
okay. But you're not a big drinker besides?
I used to be. That's for Regal, the Interview with Regal podcast. Yeah.
Was that in college?
I was in college, yes. It was during some dark times.
Yeah, it's not that I wouldn't have done that. It's that I physically cannot.
Right.
That's off the table. I mean, I already will smoke pot all weekend sometimes, so that's not good enough. But I mean, what could I do for fun that would be?
Well, I was actually,
I can't just
in addition to
go
drugs,
ahead. Yeah, what's your
I was
example?
actually going to say like crime sprees. Like, haven't you?
Okay.
Have you ever wanted to like just take your car and just run over people like in GTA? Probably not. I hope the answer is no. But
personally, no. But I mean, I guess I could get to the place where I'm like, this is not real in a way. Like these are no consequences.
Because
so
they are no consequences.
Start caring less about the pain of the people, but that would be hard for me, I think.
Yeah. Or you could like do other crimes if you wanted to like try sneaking in somewhere. Like if
yes,
if you're like, hey, I really want to see what the inside of this place is like, and you just try sneaking in.
Right. So that's true, and I can pick locks, and I would love to be able to do that more.
You can just challenge yourself.
So as soon as I'm caught, I can just reload, as long as I'm not killed. So as long as it's not like I go on a killing spree.
Right. Well,
I mean, like in the driving over people example, you may get shot in your car in that case.
That would be the risk, right? You have to learn how to
pit maneuver it off the highway.
Keep your finger on the reload button. But like if you want to go on a GTA style bender for any reason.
Or go have sex with people you wouldn't normally have sex with.
Exactly.
Yeah. My wife wouldn't be happy about that. She wouldn't know.
She wouldn't.
But I'd know.
It's true.
But I'd know. I don't know.
What was I talking about? I think this is pretty benign. I mean, you run a high risk of dying every time you do this, but like you're just living your normal life, right? You're not really trying to live forever. Because I guess the point of doing this is that part of the low risk option is that you go back to right where you were before or something close to it, like a week ago. You don't really lose like 10 years of your life, right?
Right. I mean, the big thing with the bender idea for me, like if you're really asking me what I would do, I'd probably do ecstasy a whole lot more, because that is a long-term damaging drug.
Yeah.
And I'm not supposed to take it because I'm on SSRIs. Like it doesn't work the same way.
Yeah.
So I'd have to figure that out. And it's something that has huge hangover for me as well.
Yep.
Like I feel sad and sick for days. But the experience is worth it if I don't have to do those things.
Right. So it's also not a one-day bender. You can sort of just like abandon your family, throw away your phone, and just like go hang out in the hotel, like a 5-star hotel somewhere for a month, and then just reload.
It's true.
Right? It's
true.
Yeah. You can just liquidate all your savings, go hang out in a 5-star hotel in Hawaii, do whatever you want, and then just reload, right? And go back, no consequences. So you can have like great experiences for free, basically, as long as you have the money to afford them.
Yeah, I could try just about anything that's not super dangerous.
You can also
Could
try
jump
the
off a
dangerous
roof.
things.
I
Well,
can
yeah,
jump off a roof and load before
yeah,
I get to the bottom
yeah, exactly. If
for the
that's
thrill of it.
yeah, to make you feel alive.
Yeah, yeah, because it's too easy with this power.
Right.
What would
So
you do, Regal? I feel like I've been saying a lot
oh,
of things
I will do
about
the
what I
next
do.
thing. Actually, the very
Okay.
next thing is what I would do. Um, so the other option, so you can go on benders without saving frequently, but the problem is you lose a lot of your life, right?
Oh yeah, so yeah, yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
so
can be
it's like if you
very bad
save
for
in
you.
college, if your last save was in college or in high school, and you're now 35 and you go on a bender and it's like, whoops, didn't want to do that. Some consequences
Hmm.
happen. And it's like, man, but if I reload, I go back to high school again, right?
Right, like you're giving up. I mean, with that one
Yeah,
save spot, you're giving up a lot
yeah.
if you wait that long.
But that's what I would do anyway. So what I would do, I think, although the
Uh-huh.
one timer is also a good option, is save early in life somewhere. Um,
Yep,
I would
and then live
think
the whole thing.
I would think it would be in like eighth grade is probably where it would be.
Eighth grade. Interesting. Why
Um,
eighth grade?
because eighth grade I was still in North Dakota, but I'm pretty close to moving out of North Dakota, so I can
The best
still
place to
do
be.
anything I want in North Dakota. Um,
Yeah, tip over the bison on the hill.
sure, yep. And then, but I basically wanted to be almost as early as possible, just so I can re-experience, replay out different parts of my life. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Retry events that
yeah,
are pivotal.
yep. And this, I think, this one is the one you would do if you want to basically try to live as long as you can with the power,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So you could just, I could always just keep the save spot,
Yep,
in high school, and when I'm 60 or 70 or whatever,
yep.
whenever I want, I could be like,
And
you
you
know
go
what,
back.
time to restart.
Yep. Or
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good option.
yeah,
So how much do you say? How much do you want to bank before that? Yeah, I don't know.
that's the question. That's why the one timer, the win the lottery is also a really nice option, right? Because you don't have to go through the whole hard part again. You can start. You can basically be born the son of a billionaire, like at the start of
Yeah,
life, right?
yeah.
That's but they worked for it
Yeah,
too.
and but having an old save, yeah, being able to go back also to when you were very young is going to be a very attractive thing
Yeah,
as I get
because
older.
it's also the one where if you know about, so like some things about yourself you're never going to find until later in life, and maybe you could have fixed it in the beginning, right? Like health things or whatever,
Yes.
right? If you're like,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, if you're like, oh, later in life I developed diabetes, I need to be way more careful than I was as a kid about like eating sugar, or you have a save so you don't care,
Hmm.
right? But if you did care about those things, that would be
Yeah, but it's still like, yeah, there's things that you would want to avoid that will affect
right,
every go of it.
right, exactly.
Uh, huh, yeah.
Basically, the earlier it is, the more things you can fix, right? The less chance there is for
Hmm.
something that's unfixable. The problem is the earlier it is, the less agency you have, right? Like,
Like as a high school kid, you mean?
yeah, or a middle school kid, right? Like
Yeah, of
how are
course.
you going to get out of your family? Like, you can't, right? How are you going to get money? You also kind of can't. Like, you literally can't have a credit card that you can buy stuff with, right?
And also, there's this problem, or there's this issue. I mean, no one would know, but am I going to be a 70-year-old guy dating
Yes.
17-year-olds in high
Yes, you
school?
are. Yes, you
I don't
are.
know about that. Like, am I going to be too icked out by that?
Well,
Probably.
that's up to you.
That's up to you. That's up to you.
Um,
But I don't know.
that's why,
And does it matter, if I'm going to reload anyway? Like, yeah.
sure.
I don't know.
We'll save that for the ethics podcast.
No,
But
Regal's going
here's
to
the
be
thing:
doing.
you have to act your age. That's kind of the problem, right? But the thing is, if you fuck up, you can reload. And I think
Yeah.
after like the 20th time you do this, you'll get pretty good at acting like a high schooler.
I think so.
I
And
think
like,
you'd
what
be
can you
fine.
really say?
Yeah.
What can a high schooler really say that people are like, wait
Yeah.
a minute,
Exactly.
is this guy a magic time traveler?
I think what'll just happen is like, wow, you're really mature for a
Yeah.
fifth grader. It's like, yep, you have no idea.
Yep.
But
I'm really
yeah, I
mature.
think you're kind of stuck there.
18-year-old.
I mean, you have to. you have to learn how to navigate the early parts of your life, and maybe once you've lived through high school, it kind of depends on like, do you really want to replay X part of your life? Like, do you want to go back and make high school a much better experience? Do you have regrets about how you handled it? And after you fix a couple things, do you want to go back again? Do you want to try different things? Or are you just kind of happy, like, I got enough out of it, let's save later in life when I have a better option?
Uh yeah, I mean, because you have to go through a certain amount of awkward pain in school in
Yeah.
those times, and like you said, limited power to do things.
You would like
Curfews
try
and
to,
whatnot.
you would figure out some ways to avoid some of it, but I don't think you can get rid of all of it, right? There's just no way out for a
Yeah,
lot of that stuff.
personally, there's with the exception of more recently in my life, like that age, high school, college, younger,
Hmm.
mid, even mid to late 20s, there's no part of that I would not redo. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
there's no part of that I'm like, oh, I can't give. I mean, maybe like meeting my wife, but even beyond that, like, I could still do that if I wanted to again. I could make it happen.
Right.
But I'm trying to think, like, there's a lot of things I would want to redo. So yeah, but would I want to fuck around in high school? Like,
That's the thing, right? It's like you can go
is
back
that really like
the
what's the point?
yeah, the alternative to this is sort of the like checkpoint system, right? It's like, okay, I
Uh-huh.
replay high school 10 times. I fixed all the problems. Like it's fine.
Yeah,
Let's just save after high school so I don't have to do that again, right?
yeah.
Um, you know, depending on what you want out of it, I think they're all reasonable. And obviously you're not really locked out from you can't go back, but you can always decide like, hey, I've done this enough times. I'm done here. Let's just go on to the next thing.
Yeah, that would
Right.
be hard. I want to bring up the whole. I mean, we've talked about the min maxing problem or the skill tree problem, right?
Mm.
Like the restarting,
Hmm.
the re-rolling my character problem. I will keep doing it until it is perfect, and
Hmm.
perfect is not even definable necessarily in
Right.
this case.
And in this case, I guess it would depend on like I think it would be kind of fun because like some
Hmm.
most of the time you start a new game of Civ because it's like, oh, I have an idea, right? It would be fun to do this again, right? Or like I want to do
Yeah, or I'm getting my ass kicked. I don't
right,
do this better.
exactly. Well, right. Um, and I think it
More
would
barbarians.
for a long time. I think I would have fun like trying to do high school again. Knowing like
Hmm.
with the benefit of hindsight, like I won't get nearly as triggered by my parents or whatever, right? I won't act
Hmm.
so much like a creep all the time,
Yeah, me too.
etc. So
I'd just be able to handle
yeah,
social situations so much better.
and I think it would be fun to go back and like try different things,
Uh-huh.
like challenge yourself in some ways, or like see how rich you can get, see how many of
Uh-huh.
the different what do they call it in the Harvest Moon? Bachelors and bachelorettes you can date,
Right.
right?
How many romances can I
Yeah.
get?
And so on. Like I think
Yeah, I mean, I probably would do that sort of thing. Sorry, honey, if you're listening to this. Uh, the the more we talk about this, the more I'm coming around to the idea of what you said of having just one early save that I pretty much never override because I think I'd really struggle with that. I think I'd be
yeah,
like, I just don't know if this is the best ever. Like, I don't
right.
know that I'd ever reach the point where I'm like, yup, you know what? I want this forever.
Yeah.
I just don't. Yeah, I feel like I'd be stuck with a really early save and be maybe frustrated with having to go back so far also
Hmm.
every time. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
It's tough.
It's tough. I think it will change because like as humans, we have a really hard time of understanding what perspective looks like after one lifetime, right? Because we've never experienced that. Like, how is your perspective going to change after you lived for, your 500th year?
Right. Yeah, we can't. It's just something we cannot know.
Right.
And it's a good point. Like things would change.
Yeah. So I think maybe if you've done that enough times, if you've played through high school 20 times, which
Uh-huh.
sounds like not a
And I'm
large
now
number, but that's 80 years of high school, right? That's maybe after 80
yeah.
years of high school, you're like, okay, I think I've finished. And then I can go win the lottery now. And I can sort of
Hmm.
move on to the next
Or
thing.
I'm playing high school until I'm technically 3,000 years
Yeah,
old.
exactly. Nothing
And
wrong with that, of
I
course.
become so disconnected from humanity. I'm like a vampire guy.
I That's an interesting topic. That's something I think a lot about. I don't know if I have an answer, but I think a lot of
Being a
the answers to
vampire?
their, yeah, like the trope of like the 800-year-old character. I don't think they act like what an 800-year-old human would act like. I don't know
I don't think
exactly.
so either.
Yeah,
They often don't. Where I'm like, this is like
that's
an
not how.
this
Yeah,
is 1,000-year-old person.
yeah,
They kind of are acting just like a kid. I don't know,
yeah. Um,
or like a
I think
regular
Lord of the
person.
Rings, the elves in Lord of the Rings, is pretty close. Like I think they act pretty reasonably for what someone that old would act like.
Yeah,
But
yeah, they do a good. There's an idea that they feel a little bit removed
yeah,
from mere mortals, and
yeah.
like they just don't have the same experience of emotions because they have done it so much or whatever.
But I also do think that over time, it's possible that it goes the other way. That like your enjoyment of small things gets amplified because that's all you're living for, right? You're not really like looking at. You don't really care about the big picture anymore. You're caring about the small picture because the big picture is so big. For example.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
they do, but they do say people do. Well, yeah, it's really hard to say because some
we
people
can't
say
know, right?
yeah, exactly. You can live your whole life in frivolous hedonism, and I'm sure some people look back and are like, "Oh, I wasted my life. That was a pointless. You know, I was an asshole. It was pointless." But I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like, "Yeah, that was great. That was a
Yeah,
lot of fun."
and the thing is that the first part
So which would I be?
goes away. Yeah, that's also true. The first part goes away when you don't have a life to waste, right? When it's like, man, I wasted my life, could have done other things. Well, you can still do other things because you live for 800 years, right? It's a little
Right.
different.
If I can still load, I can just do it
Yeah.
again anyway.
Or if you're like an immortal elf, right? I think they would both be the same. That like, I think it's totally like I would totally understand if someone who's lived 800 years actually finds a lot of pleasure in like the small things in life and like the day-to-day activities.
I wonder about that too. You know, they often put in vampire shit
Hmm.
in literature and movies that immortality is a curse, right? You see
Yeah,
all your loved ones die, and you tire of the world. But I wonder, I really do wonder if that would be true.
I
I
agree.
gotta think it's not going to be true for everybody.
I think so too. I think so too. But it's
I
hard to.
think more likely you'd just probably have a god complex. I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that also changes everyone around you is also immortal, right? Because then you're just like, what would society look like?
Wait, what do you mean? Because I can always go back and see them?
Well, that's for saving Lonia, but I mean also for vampires and elves, right? Like you're living among other vampires and elves who are also
Other
so
immortals.
you can't really have a god complex because everyone else is also immortal, right?
Right, true. I see.
It's hard to say. It's hard to
Yeah,
say because we,
and so you'd have friends in that case. I mean, they
yeah,
usually put it in terms of like the loneliness, but in that
yeah.
case,
See,
yeah,
that's
you'd have people who will relate to.
I just think those characters are 65-year-old humans who are about to die, and I don't think that's a good. I don't think that's accurate to what they would actually
They're acting
experience.
like that
Yeah,
rather than
exactly.
okay, yeah, yeah.
They're like cynical.
Interesting.
They're like cynical old people, right? That's sort of what the trope is.
It is, yeah.
And I wonder. I can't. I don't know for sure, but yeah, I wonder if that's accurate. Anyway, I
Yeah,
wanted to.
especially if you know, you're not aging, you know,
Yeah,
you're not getting all the disadvantages of mortal aging.
and also you're not afraid of aging, right? You're not
Right,
like,
right.
oh man, like I only have 20 more years to live or whatever, and I'm angry about it, and that I take it out on the people around me, and nothing
Right.
matters,
I don't need to keep a skull on my mantle to
right?
remind myself that I will
Or
die.
chase people off your lawn.
Right, right. I don't need to do that.
Okay, I
But
wanted
I
to
do it
quickly
anyway.
explore how long you could actually live for, because again, you die when you die, but what
Hmm.
things can actually kill you? So I looked at some numbers, I crunched some numbers.
Oh, okay.
So the U.S. population is 332 million, and I looked at all the causes of death in the U.S. So uh,
Okay.
of the top 10, you're immune from 9 of them: heart disease,
So these are
cancer.
like unexpected things that could
Yeah.
happen.
So well, this is everyone who's died in America. What do they die from?
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
so you're immune from 9 of them: heart disease, cancer, COVID, etc., etc., etc. You can,
Because it's all slow.
yeah, these are all slow. Well, COVID's not slow, but these are all things you can reload. You can be like cough, cough,
Yeah.
cough. Oh
Oh,
shit.
I got COVID. I'm about to go into the
Yeah,
hospital.
this is
I'm
not. It's
reloading.
time to reload, right? Okay,
I'm out of
so
here.
assuming you reload aggressively, right? You really
Hmm.
can't die from these. Like maybe a stroke, maybe a heart attack, but if you're like aggressive enough with like monitoring your health, I think you'd be fine, right?
Yeah. Reload.
Yeah.
Save one.
So
Yeah.
that so that leaves preventable injury,
Shazam.
which is number 4. So you have poisoning, poisoning, which also includes overdosing.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're doing, but if you're not taking, if you're careful, you have almost no chance of dying to this, I think. If you're on a bender, you have a pretty high chance of dying to this, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in real life, I'm pretty careful about these things.
Right.
So I guess I wonder how it would be, would I start losing that need to prepare or, check ahead of time? Like, would I be more lax about those things? I don't know. I don't think I would, I guess, if I knew I could die still.
Yeah, I don't think you would either. I think if you're already inclined to be careful, I think what would happen is like you don't feel the need to go overboard anymore. Like, do you ever, you know, because I think for a lot of drugs, at least, the enjoyment goes down a lot actually if you take too much, right?
Yep, it does.
And if you,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's also my experience. So I think if you'll quickly learn where the enjoyment threshold is, and I doubt that for the vast majority of people, you'll be at the point where you lose control completely or you black out.
Yes, and I've experienced that, like, oh, my high is going away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take another, and it's not gonna work as well, and it's gonna be bad for me.
Right.
And I would be able to, like you say, know what that threshold is way better and not go past it or go past it and reload.
Okay, so depending how you play poisoning, which is the big one,
Poisoning is the big one, isn't car accidents?
So poisoning is actually twice as big as car accidents. Surprisingly, it also surprised me.
This must be like overdosing, like you
It
said.
includes overdosing. Yeah, I think overdosing is
not
kind of
like
the big one.
intentional poisoning.
No,
like powder in your ear.
Yeah, murder is not included here either. By the way, this is all
okay.
preventable injury. Cars, I think it's pretty unlike, like if the car crash would kill you, I think it's a pretty low chance that you would survive. You'll be able to reload in time if you have to do something physical.
If the car crash would kill me, yeah, no,
Maybe
I think
like
that's
1 in 10,
reasonable.
right? You'd be like you were trapped in your car and you like died slowly, maybe. But for anything that would kill you,
Yes, I would have to survive the initial crash probably.
Yeah.
Because if it's just like, oh, here comes a car, I'd just be like, oh fuck, probably rather than on my toes.
Exactly.
Just knowing how I normally react to surprising events.
Yep. And I think falls.
Oh shit.
Falls are actually, so this surprised me a lot. Apparently, deaths from falls are almost the same as deaths from cars.
Is this mostly older people?
I would guess so.
Where a fall becomes more and more deadly.
Yeah, I guess. I'm shocked by this number. Maybe my numbers are
I think
wrong.
so. I know a lot of older people that's like what precipitates their final death is like, oh, I fell and broke my leg.
Oh, interesting.
And now I fucking died.
That sucks actually. Life is hard.
Yeah, it sucks being old, and you got to be so careful because you heal worse and your shit breaks easier.
So I guess if it was mostly old people, you could actually avoid most of the just not being old.
I think so. Don't jump off any bridges.
And right. And there's a couple. Actually, that's true. People died at my university because they were like sitting on the edge of the parking structure and fell. I guess that's
really,
yeah.
Were they were like
they were
probably drunk or something?
Not like really drunk, but they were drunk. Yeah,
drunk enough. Ouch.
Anyway, we don't have to go through all of these, but overall, there's a homicide. That's where it's kind of sketchy because that depends on where you live and what you're doing. Obviously, if you're committing crimes, death from homicide from police goes really up.
Yeah, generally homicide, as I understand it, is someone you know or a family member. Like it's not a random act of violence, but like the vast majority. Not that it doesn't happen, but usually it's someone you know, or usually it's your partner or whatever.
Right. Or a rival gang. You can also,
or your rival gang. Yes.
If you move out of America, this goes down a lot, obviously. So
that's nice.
You have the option to get out of the situation. But
yeah, it's easier to reload if I'm getting stabbed.
Yep. So
than shot.
at a very basic estimation, including homicides and including accidental deaths only, your expected life expectancy is around 2,650. So you will live for about
Years?
years. So you live for about 2,500 years. And obviously, you're kind of stuck in the current era, right? You can't really advance the era. Although, like, we'll talk about it if you want to try, but
Mm-hmm.
because you can't really advance to the point where like cancer is cured and you can live forever, or like aging is cured and you can live forever.
That's interesting. I'm surprised that 15. I actually thought it would be way higher.
Yeah,
That amount,
a lot of people
just
die by
based on
accident.
yeah.
It's kind
So
of
it goes.
obviously a lot of this number is homicides. So if you get rid of the homicides, you die. What this is measuring basically is like 1 in 265. If you live for 100 years, 1 in 265 people. No, sorry, 1 in 26.5 people will have an accidental death in their life, right?
Over that long
Yeah,
time.
per 100 years. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
um, if you're really careful, this can go way up, right? But this is just a ballpark of what it would look like.
Yeah, I mean, I can drive carefully and everything, but you can't predict
Right,
other people.
right, exactly.
With homicides, you may be. I could get strapped. I could knuckle up and have some
Yeah,
some guns to protect myself.
sure. Yeah, protect yourself from getting shot using guns, of course.
Yeah, right.
They'll block.
I'd be the good guy with a gun.
Yeah. No, the guns will block the bullets, right? Like when someone shoots at you,
Ding, ding.
you can like
Yeah, like Wonder Woman.
bullet time. Yeah. Um. Okay.
Wow.
What do you think you would do after going through these scenarios?
Uh, you mean the whole thing?
Yeah.
How would I approach
Yeah.
everything? Man, again, I think where I've ended up is I would probably. Oh man, that would be fun though. I would probably save. I would probably save my senior year of high school and live long lives and restore load almost entire lives. Probably I would try to get through high school and college well, but if I'm not saving after, it's almost like I should just kind of live my
You
life
end up living a
and
normal
just
life.
get the.
Yeah.
But I think it's more important for my freedom in every case to get rich quick, and I might not be able to do that in high school, so it doesn't make sense to save after that, whenever that is.
Would you still go into? So let's say you're replaying your life now, right? Let's say this is before you quit. You're in your last. You're stuck at Activision, and your life is and you reload. What would you do? What would you change?
Well, if money weren't an issue,
Well, it
I
would be
wouldn't
because
be.
you go back to high school, right?
Yeah, but my plan for money is to win the lottery, right?
Oh, I see. But the thing is you have to save before and right after you win the lottery. Is that the idea?
So, second half of my senior year, I'd be 18, right?
Ah, okay.
I could win the lottery then.
I see.
Save, have my what do they call the last semester of senior year? It's like
I used to know this.
senior skip
actually.
day or something. Senioritis.
Yeah, okay. Yep. It's part of it.
Yeah, it would be all graduation parties and shit, and I'd be rich as fuck.
Right.
Although I probably couldn't really throw it around then, but who knows? Yeah, I guess I'd probably try that because I think I'd really struggle with saving anything more than that later on. I'd be like, well, that could have gone better, or I really would like to do this thing in college again, or saving around that time would give me so many options career-wise if I like really wanted to go into a career. Although knowing my first couple lives, I would not get a regular job.
Yeah, I mean,
certainly. I'd just be
fine.
trying to do crazy projects.
You have a
with
lot
money.
of lives to go through, right? So it's actually fine.
Yeah. Maybe eventually I'd devote myself to. Hell, that's the thing. Like, if you're gonna do good work in the world, if you're gonna help people, it's almost like it would feel pointless if I didn't let it save, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk. One of the follow-ups here is like, what do you do if you want to do good in the world? And how much can you really
Yeah,
do?
what would I do? Yeah,
That would be
that would be
different.
so tough.
That would be tough. It's much
That'd
harder
be
than you
tough
might
because
think.
it'd be tough because can I do those things while still maintaining all the other stuff I wanted? You know, like,
This
or would I have to be selfless with that time? You
this
know?
goes back to your point about billionaires not becoming billionaires. I saw I saw a headline that like Warren Buffett exceeded like $50 billion or 15 or 50 some ungodly number of
Mm-hmm.
charitable donations in his lifetime. That's
Mm-hmm.
where if you want to maximize your life, you have to really think about it, right? Like, do you have to be Warren Buffett for the whole your whole lifetime and do all the billionaires, the evil billionaire stuff and amass money so you can donate more of it, or
Mm-hmm.
what, right?
Well, so there's this other thing. When we talked about crime sprees,
Mm-hmm.
prob it's hard to say. Would I chicken out? Would I try if I wanted to try to change the world in a different
Uh
way?
huh. Okay.
Like, I'm going to assassinate some horrible politician or something
Yeah.
and see if I can get away with it
Mm-hmm.
and keep loading until I do. Yeah, but even then, it's like, well, now I have to, for it to really mean anything, I got to live this out, right?
I would say so. When it comes to that, I would say if you're trying to do the most, but yes, the answer is yes, right? You have to live it out to see.
And this is assuming that even does
Right.
good, right?
I
And
would
it's not just
say
they just
I
get
would say
replaced right
it's
away.
much easier, or like your effect is going to be much greater by adding something to the world than taking away something, right? Because if
Mm-hmm.
you, I think
Mm-hmm.
we talked about this before, if you just assassinate an oil exec, there's just going to be another oil exec. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
the
I'm not really
VP,
changing the
the
system
VP is
doing
going
that.
to be the P, right? And that's kind of just what's going to happen. Um,
Yeah, or they'll get more and or in some scenario they'd get more and more anonymous and
right,
protected and
right.
all these things.
And they
And
become less open to this might be a stretch, but they might become less open to like where they feel threatened, right? Like
yeah,
they become less open to peaceful resolutions or whatever. Not that they're open to peaceful resolutions as it is, but uh,
yeah,
I would think what you
yeah.
would have to do is not try to take things out of the world, but try to add things. So I think one of the things you could do is like um, dedicate a couple lifetimes to research, right? And then
Okay,
load
okay.
in high
So this
school.
is something you could retain
Yeah,
over
because you keep your
potentially.
memories, right? So you have magic
Yeah,
brain.
so like I figure out the chemical
Hmm.
makeup of the cancer
Yeah.
vaccine.
So you would do that for a couple lifetimes. You keep all your knowledge, and then you load when you're 18. You publish it. You send it to, uh, you know, whatever you think institution will do the most with it. Maybe it's a university.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's big pharma. Although I don't know if that's a good idea.
Mm-mm, probably not.
Um,
Although it'll get there
it'll
anyway.
get
But
right. So you send it. You live another lifetime, right? You're like, okay, now starting from year when were you in high school? Like 1874?
yeah,
Yeah.
1879, I
Oh,
think. Yeah.
1879. Okay, so starting from
No, I
1870.
graduated in 2001.
I see. Um, that was a long senior year.
Uh, what?
From you had senior year of high school from 1879 to 2001. That's like over 100
Oh,
years.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was
Kind
long.
of crazy.
I learned a lot.
Anyway, so you would be like, okay, well now they have everything I learned from my last life starting now, and then you like do it again, right? You're like, okay, can we jumpstart? Can that jumpstart the next wave? But the thing is, like, I think you run into a point where it just takes time, right? You can't. There's a limit to how fast the labs can move to like verify your claims, right? You can't. You
Mm-hmm.
can't compound it infinitely, I would say.
Like, there's not a way to instantly cure cancer, you mean?
Yeah, so it'd be like, okay, well, I sent, if you send like 10 papers to the lab, they're like, oh, well, this is weird. Uh, let's test it. And then they have to spend like 2 years testing it, right? If they even
Yeah.
do that. And then, but,
And there's, oh, go on.
oh, but then the next time, the next time you can't really just be like, okay, well, now I'm going to send 20 papers to this lab. They're going to be like, what is
Mm-hmm.
this? Unless,
I'm going to double space the lines.
right. Unless there's like unless you figure out some method, it's hard to imagine a point where you can be like, I'm just going to figure out the cure to aging, like throughout all my lifetimes of research and try to accelerate it.
Mm,
Maybe it's possible.
right.
Maybe.
Well, so what would you do? Have you gone through your scenario?
Yeah, I think I would save in eighth grade to start with. So
Uh-huh.
here's the thing I struggle with, right? Like those times in life are often so miserable, right? Like
Yes.
even if you're
Yes.
fully aware of everything that comes after, you still have to do it every day, right? And you have to do it every day because you can't, like, saving and loading doesn't give you any other superpowers. You don't, you have to actually like perform the thing every day that to get to the goal that you want to
Yeah,
do.
and there's nothing that would stop me necessarily from getting pushed into a locker or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. And also, even if you had money, you don't have that much control. Even if you have $1 million, it's how are you gonna like convince your parents that you're gonna pay to go to private school or whatever? Um, you know, it's hard to have that much agency. So I think that would be. I think I
Yeah,
would try
yeah.
that a couple times. Right. I
Would
would.
you have major things in that time you'd want to do differently? Like, are there
I think I just want to be
events?
like a better person.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be
I
nice.
think that's number one. It's not super important, but I think I would try to be a better person. I think I would try to use my time better, and I would try to. Uh, I think I have a much better idea of like what kind of how I would get more of that time. Like I think that's a time in life where you have a lot of freedom, despite what it looks like. So here's one thing,
Hmm.
right? Like
Hmm.
homework wouldn't be hard anymore. Like getting good grades would not be difficult, right? Because
Um, I that depends. I'd do great in English, but I'd have to relearn math. I mean,
yeah,
I
well,
don't
here's the
remember
thing.
any of it,
Because the thing is,
and
actually,
chemistry and shit.
at that point, you can reload pretty quickly. So
Uh-huh.
like, you can just like do a year and then be like, oh, well, I forgot all this stuff. Let's reload again or whatever. I don't know if you want to do that.
Yeah, it's work.
Yeah, that is work. But I think it would be fine for me. Like, I think like school would become easier. It wouldn't really be stress. I think after a
Yeah.
couple tries, I would be pretty capable of just getting straight A's in high school. I don't think that'd
Yeah,
be that
especially
hard.
if any hard question you got, you get again
Yeah, exactly.
next time.
And then I think that would be a time where you can use to have a lot of freedom in other ways. Like I think you can get away with a lot of stuff. You can just like go to people's houses when you're 15, right? You can't really. Um,
Right, like you're gonna I mean, you could go to juvie, but like
yeah,
at first you could get away with a lot,
yeah,
and if you reload every time, you can
yeah.
probably just keep doing that.
And
Yeah.
I don't even mean criminal things, but just like the kind of activities you can get up to, the shenanigans you get up to, are kind
Uh,
of different than what you can install. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe it's just rose colored. But I think I would try that for a while, and then once I got bored of high school, I would win the lottery like you, and then just stop
hmm
there
hmm.
and see what happens. The other thing is
Yeah, I
like,
mean that's a good place
yeah,
to have a lot of
yeah,
options. I would also probably in my next life I would probably try working with animals sooner
yeah, exactly.
and see how that went.
Um, and I think over once you get like 5 or 6 runs in, you can start. You have a pretty good fallback plan for a bunch of stuff, right? You can be like, oh well, I can just try a couple things, like because that's kind of what happens in real life, like in college, out of college, right? Like people bounce around jobs all the time. I think you just like try new things that you thought were exciting, and if it's not good, you can just go back to what you did previously,
Yeah, if you're lucky to
or
you
win the
can do
lottery. I don't know, fall back on your lottery money,
that.
whatever. I was gonna,
I could win the homecoming court.
yeah, exactly.
Actually, I don't see how that would be possible even with reloading.
What
I
if
guess if I
you
like
reeled in ninth grade, you could
engineered a
do it.
situation where I save someone's life or something,
Oh,
maybe.
you don't think if you loaded in ninth grade, you could find a way to win the homecoming court in 4 years?
I just don't. I don't have the. I'm not the right type.
But
It's just
if you like challenged yourself, like you save in ninth grade,
maybe and
you're,
like charmed the hell out of
yeah, and
everybody.
you're like, hey, and this is like your 12th run, and it's like, hey, this time I'm just gonna be like super outgoing guy, and
And I'm gonna like make half court shots.
yeah, well, yeah, that's the other thing. The other thing about starting early is that you can make physical decisions that you can't make later. Like sometimes, um, even if you can't be an NBA player, you still if you want to be like physically in some kind of shape later on, you do have to start early, right? You can't just start overnight.
Yes.
So it's like,
yeah, I mean, like staying fit over time. Well, I mean, it doesn't. What do you mean? I guess. What do you
yeah,
mean by
like if
that?
you want to be ripped in college, or you want
Uh-huh.
to, or you just want to be in really good shape for health reasons or whatever in college, you have to
Uh-huh.
start in high school, right? You can't just like load in college and be like, okay, well today I want to be ripped.
To be already ripped
Yeah,
as you enter college.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I see.
And so that's
I think in any sort of exercise sport thing, like I'm always going to be too lazy to follow through with that. I
yeah,
can't see myself
I
doing
think
that.
so. I would say maybe as we've done it and as you have enough runs, basically, there comes a
Uh-huh.
time when you're what's exciting is trying something new. And that's like, hey,
Hmm.
how far can I get if I want to be a baseball player?
Right. Yeah, and you can just try crazy shit
Yeah,
like that.
and see how it goes.
Turns out not far.
Yeah, maybe not. I think what I would end up doing is something like uh replay middle school and high school a couple times, figure out the best way to get what you want. I think one of the nice things is like it'd be nice to live at some point without being rich, because like
Hmm.
I think just your everyday is simpler in some ways.
In what way?
um Actually, no, I take it back, it's not simpler,
I think it's the opposite of
because
that.
it's yeah, okay, never mind, I take it back, because I was thinking like you'd be like
I mean,
you have the
if you're
mentality.
known, if you're like a known if you're
Yeah,
famous, it's
yeah,
different.
yeah, if you're famous,
But
I
rich
guess it's
is
different.
like I have options
Yeah.
to do anything basically.
I think I would just replay like high school like a bunch of times until I got bored, and then during that time I hopefully figure out like who the best people are that I want to be spending my time with, right? How to get most out of it. I would know all
Hmm.
the stuff at that point, and then I figure out the best way to get rich. And then I
Yeah.
make a list at some point of like all the stuff I needed to get done in high school.
So and memorize it. So when you went back
Yeah,
there,
and
you do
like
it all.
just write it down. Be like, okay, on the what is the final run
Wait,
gonna look like?
I can bring back objects.
No. You write it down when you get there, or you can
Okay,
just
okay.
remember it. I don't know. I mean, you have magic
Yeah,
brain,
yeah,
so I guess it's whatever.
yeah.
No, but it's
Use a
like
mnemonic
it's like
device.
okay, well, on the final, you plan out your final run, right? Like you've experienced this like 30 times. You know exactly. You know what you think the best is. Like maybe it's like okay, on the final run, I'm gonna get straight A's. Gonna work out every day. I'm gonna do this, do that, whatever. Um, and then you save over that like when you turn 18, and then you execute your get rich plan, and then that's kind of your final point, and then from that point you're loading back
Yeah, I mean,
the
I'm pretty
rich
similar to that.
stuff.
I think you've solved it
you know
to the extent that it can be solved.
yeah, and you know what I thought was funny when I came to that conclusion is
Uh-huh.
none of this requires a superpower. Like you're literally just making a list of priorities and you're really focused on them, and then you can just ignore the
Yeah,
rich
but
part.
I wouldn't know which are the important priorities
Yeah,
until
that's
I've
the
played it
thing,
out
right?
though.
That's kind of like youth is wasted on the young, you know?
Yeah,
Like
I mean, like I'm trying to think. Like what did I spend a lot of time? I mean, obviously just playing a shit ton of
yeah,
video games and
exactly.
watching TV and movies.
Yeah.
Like it, but I'm trying to think like what was really something I would. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough
Your
because
prior
I can't really change who I am and what I like.
Yeah.
But maybe it will change over time. I mean, it changes over our current lifetimes. How am I going to feel over 1,000 years?
Well, that's true, but I also just mean like all that your superpower really got you to do is for well, I guess to change your personality, which is the biggest point of this. But
Yeah.
all that it really got you was a list of priorities to stay super focused on in high school or in whatever area you're in to have
Hmm.
the best life possible. It's literally just
Yeah.
like a counselor, right? Like
That no, that no.
no,
What you're saying is huge,
it is
and
huge.
not the same thing as a
But
good
okay,
counselor.
let me rephrase it. It's literally just like a platonic ideal of a counselor, right? Like if you had
I'm not getting there.
the perfect counselor who
And they give you the Powerball numbers.
well, okay, minus the getting rich part, right? That's sort of
Okay,
something
in
you
terms of like, what is my best fulfilling
Yeah.
life.
We're ignoring because we're assuming that you're not trying to get rich in high school because you're not 18, right?
Right, but I mean, like, for example, I wouldn't know to even think about animals until
Yeah,
now.
exactly. I guess
If I
that's
go,
right.
like, I had advisors and shit like that, and I
Right.
thought about what I wanted, and I couldn't get
You
there.
couldn't get there, right? But
Didn't even seem like an option.
yeah,
So that's,
yeah, no,
yeah.
that's true. I guess a part of it for me is like, um, I guess for me it's not about what would happen in the future. It was more about like how to stay focused and what you should focus on, and how to act. Right. I guess the
Hmm.
conclusion I sort of reached was like literally all that's happening is you're becoming like a really really mature student, really mature and really focused person at a younger age. Right.
Who can see the future?
Yeah, who can see the future? I guess that's really the advantage, but
Yeah,
that's more.
I hear you. I don't. I'm
Yeah,
gonna. We're disagreeing here, but
yeah. I mean, obviously there's more to it, but it
yeah. I mean, it definitely. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I just think the way you would behave in those two situations is just different.
yeah,
It's
that's true.
just, the knowledge you would have is just different. There's no that almost supposes that there is a perfect way to plan your future with imperfect
With it,
information. I
that's I
just
guess
don't know that that's true.
yeah, that's kind of the key, right? Like it's one that's sort of what there's this general lesson in life where it's like you can tell someone something, but until they experience it, it's just not going to mean the same thing. I think we've
Yeah,
all
yeah.
experienced that, right? I think that's sort of
Hmm.
that's a
Hmm.
good illustration of exactly that phenomenon where it's like you can tell a 13-year-old me to that this is important all you want, and I can maybe even believe you, but until I know exactly what comes after and I felt it, somehow it's not the same. Right?
This is I actually don't want to go on this tangent, but I'm going to bring it up.
Okay.
um, this reminds me of the, like, what advice would you give
Mm,
your eighth grade
yeah.
self? Like, all you got to do was say, a sentence or whatever, or say, you can say whatever you want. Like, what would you tell them one time, and then you flash back to the future
Right.
and things have changed? Probably the Powerball numbers.
Yeah. Well, would you want?
And don't be an asshole.
I don't think I would want me at 18 to have that much money. Like, I think it would be okay
It's a good point.
now, right? But if I lose the memories of going back, I think that would be very dangerous. I think it would end up a lot of bad things.
That's a
Happen.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, what would that guy do with it? Ugh.
This is a good.
Uh,
So
so
anyway,
we're at a,
sons of billionaires. Am I right?
yeah, right. They have those powers. Um, yeah, I wonder if they're happy. They probably are. I don't know. Hard to say. Hard to say. They say that when you're handed everything, if you don't do anything purposeful or
Is that
affecting
what they say?
others, they do say that
This is a long.
you may never have the life you want, or a fulfilling life. It could just be frivolous, but I don't know. I think a lot of people could just live a frivolous life and have a great time.
I think most people do, and I think it's fine, right? Like I don't. I mean, what's the like? Who decides if a life is frivolous anyway? You know?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
You decide for yourself.
Yeah.
So we're at over like an hour and a half now.
Yep.
So can we have quick discussions on the other
Yes, let's
superpowers, or
go.
do you want to
Let's move on.
cover anything else with Save
No, I
Life?
think this is good.
You do have trying to become Brad Pitt here that I'm interested in
Oh,
what
you
that
want to?
means.
So if you wanted to try and become, you don't just want to be rich, right? You want to become Brad Pitt. You want to become like
Mhm.
goated. Um,
The ugly Brad Pitt.
sure. Or it could be something else. Like there's some things you don't have the talent for, but there's a lot. Like you could,
Regular looking.
like if you're decently good at singing, you could probably become a pop star if that's what you wanted, right?
If I figured out like the right people to talk to
Yeah,
when,
exactly,
and
exactly.
yeah.
You could be
Yeah.
Rebecca Black, basically, right? But like you could spin it so that you're not a meme. You're like
Well,
more.
you're convincing me. This is the way to go.
Yeah. So if you wanted to do this, this requires a lot of things to go right in order. So you basically can't. It's like so hard to do this in a single save. I think
Yeah,
in a
it would help to
non-segmented
have
run.
more.
I think you would need to commit a couple times right? At least like 2 or 3 times to make sure that you bank the really lucky thing that just happened to you,
Mhm.
and then go for the next really lucky thing. Yeah, that's about it. I don't think I
Okay.
would want to be this because this is like the opposite. Like we've talked about how important it is to not be famous, but
Yeah, how important it is, and even without superpowers, I don't want to be
yeah.
famous. I we've talked about this, right? My brother had some light fame when he
Mm-hmm.
was a kid,
Yep.
and to see his experience walking down the street or in a bar, it's so fucking annoying to have people constantly coming up to you and being like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
you're can I have an autograph? Can I do
Yeah.
this?" And they'll do it at any time. They don't. You could be at dinner or whatever, and they'll
Yep.
be like, let me buy you a drink or whatever. And he told me times like in high school and college where like he'd try to go to a bar and have a conversation with his friends, and people would be trying to buy him drinks, and he'd have to say no because there was like, well, no, I'm not going to just, my friends aren't getting drunk. Like, I'm not just going to keep taking shots.
Yeah. I see.
And he'd get into honest to God situations where people were like, oh, so you think you're better than me because you don't let me buy you a drink. So it's like weird shit like
Yeah.
that. There's all kinds of like, it would be hard. I wouldn't want it. I don't want it.
Rough.
Even to be known for something else, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, curing cancer. I don't want it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about it. Okay. Let's move on to superpower number 2.
So I think I want to talk about mind reading and the potential addition of mind manipulation.
Okay.
And change people's minds to what you want, which is pretty evil,
Well, okay.
hijacking somebody's brain.
Is it permanent? Like,
oh, like I'm going to turn this person into a chicken?
no,
I
like,
think he's a chicken,
can you
or
just permanently change someone's perspective on something, or is it like temporary?
I mean, I'm thinking permanently.
Okay.
Like this guy's authorized to be in here.
Okay.
Sort of thing.
Oh, I see. Okay. So how we need to figure out the rules.
Or like,
here.
I'm your boss, remember?
So how well, that would, okay, so
That would have to be temporary, right?
that
'Cause,
would have to be
the
temporary
facts.
because
Yes.
you would end up in a, like, they would either become like vegetative or like some weird thing would happen, right? Because you can't, people would
Because
go
then
to
they'd see
therapy.
their real
Yeah.
boss.
Yeah. And they'd be like,
Wouldn't they be just like, oh, I don't remember them being my boss. I thought it was someone
oh,
else.
but see, this is where it gets a little complicated because if it's permanent, then imagine this happened to you, right?
Mhm.
You know everything you know about life currently, except also your neighbor is now your boss. That's what you believe. But you're not a potato, right? You have conscious thoughts, allegedly.
Okay.
How would you react if that happened to you?
What's the problem?
The problem is you have a boss right now, right? Except your neighbor, you're like, oh, actually, I thought my neighbor was also my boss.
So how do I square that?
Yeah. I mean, you would just be like, oh, well, no, all the other evidence I know says my boss is my boss. And I don't know why I thought this, but that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, so probably just reality would overwrite that
Yeah.
eventually, and you'd be like, this guy's giving me my paycheck.
So actually, this like that kind of manipulation happens all the time, right? We have all kinds of weird mismemories all the time. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
like,
I
oh,
especially do.
yeah. Weirdly enough, for some reason I thought A was B, but no, it's actually A.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're unreliable.
yeah. So this superpower, if it works like that, would kind of suck.
I guess it would be, I would want it to work however long it needs to for me to do what I'm gonna do.
So temporary
you know what I mean?
temporary makes more sense, right? You can like put someone in a fog. You can just imagine that someone ends up like kind of drunk. What you're doing is basically talking to a drunk person, turning someone drunk, and then convincing them of whatever you want to convince them of. Right?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. And then the mind reading thing, I think that could get you into, certainly you could make money knowing the secrets of what people have, or
could you though?
Or even fucking go into the poker game and knowing what everybody
game
has.
is one thing, but that's potentially dangerous, right? Because then they'd think you're cheating if you're winning too much.
Yeah, you'd have to be careful.
Yeah.
You'd have to spread it out. So it's not get rich quick in the same way. Although, yeah, and you'd probably get thrown out of the
Yeah, you
casino.
would get thrown in the casino. But you have to do it over a long period of time. So I actually think the manipulation part would be much better at winning money, getting money than the mind reading.
Okay.
Because if you're manipulating someone, you can just join a poker game, play
Hmm.
normally, and manipulate the person to be like, "Ah, fuck,
Just to bet into my
I'm
bad
feeling
shit.
it today, haha, I'm doing
Yeah.
it, I'm going all in, and
You dumb
this is the
motherfucker.
one," and then you take their money, right? Because and
You
then
got your trip
yeah.
kings. Ugh.
Um,
Got a full boat.
wait, I have more questions. So how often? Actually, well, these are separate. So which one do you want to talk about more?
Uh, well, one thing I wanted to mention about mind reading
Okay.
is if I had such a power, I would want to be able to control it.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, certainly not just hearing unbidden
Mm-hmm.
what people are
Yep.
thinking, because that would be real tough.
Yep.
I'm already insecure enough as
Uh huh.
is. If people are like, oh, that guy's nose is weird, I'm like, ah, fuck. Or whatever. Uh, so there's that. I'd want to be able to control it. But another difficulty would be resisting the urge to use it, uh, especially with like people in your relationships or with your friends or with your family. Like, if I'm using it, even if they don't know about it, it's not I have stopped having a real relationship,
Yeah.
a normal human
So
relationship, and yeah, being something else. I don't know.
yeah. So in conclusion, my conclusion is mind reading as a superpower sucks. It's like a net negative, and I would just not use it, except in like
I
specific
still think I could
scenarios.
get into positions of power and stuff. Like you could talk your way out of being arrested. You can do all kinds of shit.
But if you have the option between this and manipulation, I mean, one is just way better than the
Oh,
other one,
between
right?
reading and
Yeah.
manipulation. Yeah. Fair enough.
So what can you do? So I don't think
But I think. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I would say mind reading, knowing what the other person is thinking is not very like I think most of the time if you're reading someone's mind, it's not interesting. It's not going to be about you. I think if you think about yourself, it's like that too. Like when you
You could certainly develop yeah, but this is the whole problem of being known. Because I was gonna say, like, if you can convince someone of you being magic, you can probably get them to follow you and such things.
sure.
But then soon enough, it would if you were really reading minds, you'd eventually get found out if you were really doing that.
Um yeah, I mean like I guess if you wanted to do that, but in general I think just reading minds is not helpful in the vast majority of
Mm-hmm.
scenarios. And I think it would not be interesting either. Mostly you'd be like you just read someone's mind, they'd be thinking about their stocks or like their workday. Like
Yeah, but can I
yeah.
go in? Can I go in there and like get their ATM pin?
Oh, okay. So you
Can
okay,
I? Can
yes.
I? Can I get their credit card information and their social security, and then do
Sure.
some phone stuff?
You can do that, but so I actually think you could do that right now, and the same safeguards that prevent you from doing that now would prevent you from getting too much out of it, actually.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Because I mean, you can just steal someone's identity, like at a restaurant. You could just work at a restaurant and do that, right?
yeah. And without save load, this is just
Right,
so problematic. It's
right.
so dangerous.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, in real life, you can do like finding out. Basically, mind reading lets you find out information, right? And in today's society,
Hmm.
actually, I think you can just find that information normally or pay for it if you really wanted to.
Yeah, but you can also know what people are thinking of
That's
you or
where,
your
yeah,
argument and change accordingly. Or with dating, you can be like you can sort of uh, move things in the directions of things they're interested in, or
yeah,
uh, yeah,
it can be. I think it can be marginally helpful. But I think you could also just ask them, you know,
yeah.
like
But that's not a reliable method for people
I,
telling you
I
actually
get
what they
it,
think.
I get it, but I think
I mean,
that
it's that reminds me of the like, listen, watch what people do, not what they say.
yeah, no, that's true.
like with mind reading, I could know what they're
Yeah,
really
mind
gonna
reading
do.
is like a strong. It's basically like a small improvement to your EQ, right? Which is also a dirty word. Are you familiar with the idea of EQ?
I am familiar.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's basically like like you become the
mine's a hunt.
best body language reader ever, right? Like currently there are really
Hmm.
good body language readers who can kind of tell, and like negotiators are trained on this, right? Like detect lying and
Yeah,
but you just become way
and
better at that.
yeah, and I'm trying to think like I'd be way better at it, but any situation where I'd be like, I don't know, helping to track down a killer or
Well, okay.
helping,
That's different, I
or
guess.
let's say there's a terrorist who planted a bomb,
Hmm.
and I know where the bomb is right away. There's no way for me
Yes.
to reveal that
No,
information
there is actually.
without
So if you wanted to, you so if you wanted to
just
be a
like give me
superhero,
time alone with this guy.
no, you just make an anonymous tip, right? It's actually very easy.
Does that stuff work? I wonder.
It works in movies. No, actually, I do know.
Yeah.
I do know it works. I do know it works because frequently school. Well, first of all, you can swap people on Twitch, right? Which is kind of funny. Um,
Oh yeah, calling the SWAT team
yeah,
and shit,
but you
swatting
can.
people.
I know schools have been closed because of like someone's mom said their kid like made a bomb threat, right, or whatever.
Mhm.
So if you wanted to be a superhero, actually, I think this would be really good. You could just walk. You could just like try to find anybody who is related to the thing and just make anonymous tips and like call the
That's
SWAT team
true.
over.
Yeah, I could get to the bottom of it if I could
Yeah,
just I don't know how this works. Do I have to be in proximity to
right.
them probably? But
That's kind of the question. Manipulation is more important to answer with this question. But like, yeah, how does it work? Do you have to be close? How often can you use it?
I think both of these powers would affect my life negatively, my soul negatively. I think I would
Just
relate to
manipulate
humanity
yourself. Use manipulation on
worse.
yourself so it doesn't
Yeah,
affect
be
yourself.
good.
Yeah.
Be good. I'd have to be. I'd want at first, at least. Hard to say if I'd just spiral into corruption, but at first, at least, I'd only want to manipulate people I think I already don't think are making. I think are bad
Right.
people, or manipulate in small ways that don't
Right.
hurt
Right.
innocent people. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Uh,
Well, but the thing is, we settle on it being temporary, right? So
mhm.
there's a limit to what you can convince people to do, unless someone dies or gets injured.
And all of this all kind of runs against all the things I can do. I'm still gonna be stuck being me with my identity in those situations, and even if I convince a security guard to let me in somewhere, like
You're
I'm
gonna be on
still
camera.
on the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all that sort of thing. I
Do
mean,
you know
all
what
right,
this
I'll
reminds
convince
me
the
of?
judge to let me go or whatever, but it's still a pain in the ass.
The thing is, that's it. It depends on how often can you use it, right? Can you just use it, and how many people can you affect at
Before people
once?
notice.
Yeah. Can you just walk in the courthouse and be like, snap, and everybody does what you want, or is it like one at a time?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what this
What
reminds
would
me
you
of?
do? Oh,
Well, actually, there's one thing. There was a story like right around the start of the war in Ukraine about
mhm.
the Russian billionaires and millionaires randomly dying in suspicious accidents. Did you read about
Okay.
this? There was
No.
a chain of like 3 or 4 of them that all died in accidental ways in very mysterious circumstances for
Okay.
unknown reasons. This is what kind of manipulation could do, right? You could just like walk by somebody and like hit them with the spell, and then
Uh-huh.
convince them to like accidentally off themselves, right? In
Yeah,
ways
or
that can't be
to
traced
become
to
a
you.
suicide bomber.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a good point. If I can just be one person removed with this
Yeah.
manipulation, that gets rid of that problem
It
for the
also
most
depends
part.
on how long it takes, right? Like how long or
Like
how
it's
long it
not me
lasts.
walking into the bank; it's my group of people I'm
Yeah,
controlling that
that's
are
also true. I mean,
robbing the bank.
eventually things like money can be traced to you, but you can. There's a lot of like individual things you can do.
I think I could figure that
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
I'm not gonna do
It
it right
depends on
now,
how
though.
long it lasts, though, right? Because if you can do this to someone, well, because we settle on it being like they're sort of drunk and like you can convince them to do whatever you want, right? But
Hmm.
that if that lasts long enough, people get suspicious, and those people get like the police called on them and sent to protective services, right? Or
Yeah, once I was done with them, I'd have to say, okay, now you got to jump off a bridge,
Right.
and then I'd become really a villain.
Right. Right. Well, there you go. You're
Uh,
now we know. Now we know who to target cops.
yes. Uh, all right. In the interest of time, do you want to move on to number 3 here?
Oh, I'm curious. Is that what you would use it for if you had this power? Like try to
What
like
would I
get
really
money?
use it for?
Yeah. What would you actually do?
Yes, I'd certainly get money.
How would you get money?
Um, what?
Hypothetically, asking for a friend, how would you use it to get money exactly?
I bet I could think of a scenario, but not. I'm not doing it
Here's the
right
thing,
now. I
right?
haven't
Like, I
thought of it.
think in your like one person removed scenario, you're a mob boss, right? That's literally what a mob boss can do, right? You have these
Hmm.
underlings that listen to your every order. You order them to commit a crime. They take the hit sometimes, and somehow the money ends up to you. But it's not in general. Generally, it's not hard to figure out who the
Yeah.
mob boss is, right? It's like,
Um.
well, maybe it is. I don't know.
Not if people don't know who tricked them,
That's
though, right? Like
true.
if I can say, like, you don't remember me
Yeah,
either.
that's true. I mean,
Um.
eventually,
And
it's
also, mhm.
essentially though you'd still be living a life of crime, right? You'd still just be like watching out for the cops at every turn or whatever, which I guess is okay. I mean, you can just convince the cops
Yeah,
to
I
be
could.
nice.
Maybe I'd get paranoid,
Yeah.
that I didn't do it right or something. I'd probably be doing white collar crime, honestly,
Hmm.
not mob shit. Those guys are losers. Let's get the real. Let's do some real crime.
Well, you're not wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Crime does not
Hopefully,
pay.
I mean, ideally, I'd maybe probably I might just try to scam rich people that I don't like
Oh, sure. Yeah,
somehow.
that's fair.
Anyway,
I mean, you can also
but
just meet them and convince them to bestow you money or whatever, right?
yeah, give me invest in my company that I'm not going to
I
do
mean, you don't
anything
even have to.
that
You can
doesn't exist.
literally just be like, "Hey, go to your bank, withdraw this money, and drop it somewhere."
Right, right, and they'd be like, "What? I
And
don't
it's
know
like,
where
hey,
it
what,
went."
what? I withdrew this money.
Yeah.
Police investigate. And they'd be like, no, you look. Here's a camera. You went in here and withdrew the money. And be like,
So beyond being rich,
yeah.
this is where it starts to get really hairy
Oh, that this is where it
because
starts to get hairy, huh?
yeah, I think that's all good. That's all gravy. They're
Uh huh.
getting rich, but the issue I'm really worried about the issue of like my personal relationships and
Yeah.
and managing that in a way that is not me turning into just a joker.
Yeah. I think I would just, if it's
Uh,
mind reading, I would just not use it. Like I see almost no benefit in using it, basically.
yeah, I don't know. I could really fuck with somebody.
Oh, I mean, sure, you could do that now, though.
No, I don't know all your weaknesses and your
I mean,
secrets. Like
it's not
if you
hard to
know,
find out.
like a lot of people have skeletons in their closet, and I can find that out. I can blackmail anybody and then make them forget about me if I'm
Sure,
manipulating them.
sure. Um, I guess if
Anyway,
you're like really
I.
curious about people,
Mhm.
this would be good. For
Hmm.
manipulation, I think that's depending on how it works, it could be really you could do almost whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can be a little strong. I mean, obviously the thing is like it depends on what the limits on use are. Because like
And also, what will become what will still be satisfying when I am, you know, totally controlling all the rules of every game. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
are things going to be, are my accomplishments going to be more empty to me, or I guess it depends on what
Yeah,
it
it depends
is.
on what you're doing, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
if you convince yourself that what you're doing is good, then that's all it takes, right? Uh,
Yeah, like maybe I could, would I just go and convince every billionaire to spread out the money in a certain way? Like
sure.
could I plan a redistribution of resources and use mind
The
manipulation to
thing
do
is
that?
like that's I think that's impossible. It's like because a billion like they can't just decide to redistribute money, right? Like they have to go through a bunch of paperwork, and then you have to like work at every level of the paperwork because someone's gonna flag it and be like, "Did you really want to do this?" And then they have their mind back, and they're like, "No."
Well, do they have their mind back? Like what
Oh, I
I'm saying
see.
in the
Okay, so
scenario
how does it?
where
Okay, so
they
how?
they see that through. They see that through. Like they
So
say what
they're
and
like a
they can say
zombie.
whatever
They're
the
like a
fuck they
drunk
want.
zombie until it's done.
They had a crisis of conscience, and they're now they want to cure hunger. And
Okay, see, this is dangerous because now if that's the way it works, then you could just um turn everybody like because then there's no limit sort of on how long the effect lasts, right? So you could
yeah,
just walk by every person, you could walk by and be like, make the bare minimum you need to live, and then for the rest of all the rest of your time, do X. Like every single person.
yeah, but that's not what I would do.
But
I'm
you
talking
could
about
do
like,
it.
sure, why would I do that?
Well, why not?
I don't
For the rest
understand.
of,
What's my
like
benefit?
every single person be like, hey, for the rest of your time, make just spend your money and then transfer it to me for every person you walk
But
by.
that's not what I want, though. I don't want to drain the money of the regular people. I want to redistribute the
Okay,
money and
but
make the world
the
better.
point is like,
My
well,
money problems will already be taken care of in
here's
that
the
scenario.
thing. It's like if you're making the world better for the other people, well, you could just tell them they're happy instead, right? Or like,
That's not no, that's not the same thing. That's like bestowing. That's like giving them drugs or religion. You can
well,
be happy and poor, but it doesn't make the world better.
yeah. I don't know. I would
I
say,
mean, sure, I guess so, but that's not what I would do.
yeah. I don't know. I think
It would seem fake. It would seem fake to me. I would want to give what I see as the majority of like innocent people a chance to live a totally different life,
yeah.
not be
I don't know.
completely
This
constrained
is
by money and jobs.
this one I think runs. So for example, let's say you walk by a group of never do wells, right? And you're like, hey, I'm going to use my mind manipulation to tell you to get on the straight and narrow and live
I'm
up.
not. Why would I? I'm not doing that. Why would I do that?
What? Well, if you did that, how would it work? Like, would they just be in drunk zombie state until like, how did they tell when they fulfilled their contract?
Right, right. Yeah, it would have to basically fundamentally alter their
Yeah,
morals and ethics
right.
and priorities,
That's what you're
right?
doing to the
And they'd
billionaires,
have to
right?
stick with it.
Yeah, that's a
And I don't see them as like zombieing through it, but they could be like, hopefully, I'd manipulate them into being excited and driven about it.
yeah. I think it'd be a tricky thing to figure out exactly how it works. I think. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot of questions there.
anyway, what would
Um,
I do? I think I would not use it.
yeah, you're turning down this power.
I definitely wouldn't use mind reading. Maybe in like very specific scenarios, but I just don't think there's much benefit because I can't really change. Like I can't really do anything I can't already do. To be honest, right? Like, what am I gonna do? Blackmail someone and try to get money? Like, I don't.
Sure.
First of all, I don't really think blackmail works that well in real life. Uh, and second of all, like I guess for blackmail, it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, explain that Trudeau threatened to leak that Trudeau used blackface in like 1970, unless he pays you
Yeah.
money. But people already know that, and people don't care. So, what's it gonna do? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, okay. I'm gonna tell your wife that you went to a prostitute and then murdered
I
her.
mean, how are you gonna
Like,
like you're the person if they don't know you? You can only blackmail people you know, right? Because it's like if you tell that to a random person's wife, you're like, what? Who are you? You're a crazy person.
yeah, but people don't
Call
want
the
their
police.
exact secrets being revealed. If I said all the details and had some way to link it to reality so that they could verify it, I feel like I could blackmail people. But
Okay.
and again, at the end of the day, I don't really think that's the best option anyway.
Yeah.
But I think I gotta think there's a lot of ways there to, especially just to make money or whatever. Like, I know the combination to your safe and shit. I don't know. Like,
Sure. I guess at the end of the day, I would say like if you just want to make money, like you can just do it legally. I don't know. Is it that
that's yes.
hard?
I mean, okay,
Depends. I don't know
fine,
how
but
much money. Like you're talking about blackmailing. So like
you're
here's the
talking
thing.
about actual non-superpowered life. Money is easy enough to make.
At where we are in our lives, yeah. Like if you wanted to, you could just get a job and make six figures, right?
Yeah, but that sucks. I don't want that job.
Do you think it's
I
better?
want to. I want to just I want to have the cash rolling in while I'm
Do
doing
you
whatever the
think
fuck
you'll
I
feel
want.
better if you're blackmailing someone? Do you think it's going to suck
No,
less?
no, I would feel bad.
not even that you would
Hmm.
feel bad, but it would be so stressful, right? Like you'd be constantly spending your time crafting threats to this person and like making sure that they send you money in an untraceable way and make sure they don't get the police involved, right?
Yeah, I think I could figure it out.
I don't know. I mean,
I think I could figure out how to make that work.
I think that would just be
But
so much
again,
worse
like
than
I think there
stupid.
are other ways to make money that I would probably go to first.
Yeah. I mean, uh, manipulation is much stronger. But mind reading, I think the thing about mind reading is like the police try to shoot you, you can't do anything about it. With manipulation, you can defend yourself, right?
Yeah, mind reading, that's more like you got to do some subtle stuff
Yeah.
and be more careful for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're not going to manipulate your way out of a car accident.
Yeah. I mean, manipulate, I think I would also probably not, like, I would probably use it to, like, make my life easier, but it's actually kind of difficult. Like, I guess I would, like, manipulate my way into, like, a job where I don't have to show up, like one of those jobs that got lost in the ledgers somewhere.
Oh yeah, just so you're a consultant.
Yeah, exactly. And just, like,
Yeah.
get paid and do
Yeah, I mean
nothing.
that's probably a really good way to do it actually.
And I think I
Just be
would,
like, yeah, just put me on retainer. I'm your fucking
yeah,
marketing
yeah,
consultant and you pay me way too much.
yeah, exactly. I think that'd be pretty easy. That's something that's hard to get in real life, right? You have to kind of be lucky to get there. You don't really have control over that.
Yeah, you usually got to know the right people and have the right
But after
doors
that, I
open.
don't see that I would use it for anything. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, yeah, I don't know. What I can't think of a use I would.
So if you're playing Dota, would you manipulate the other team
No.
to throw?
Well, do I have
What
to?
if you're
First of
what
all,
if you're lone?
how can I use my
What if
power
you're
on
way
anybody
behind?
from anywhere? Because that would change things.
Oh, you're talking about like it has to be in
Yeah,
person, like
yeah. If
yeah.
I can use if I can do it on anybody from anywhere, that's actually very different. Um,
Yeah, that's pretty big.
then
And
you
that
could
that
really
removes a
redistribute
lot of
wealth.
the
Yeah,
and that means you can do things anonymously,
yeah,
right? Like you don't have to
yeah.
put yourself out there.
Exactly. You can just tell 100 people to deposit money somewhere, or you could actually redistribute wealth. You could end the world if you wanted to. You could start wars, right? You can kind of do anything at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think you do have to be in proximity, and if so, I think I would.
Yeah, you could just change everything and then eventually you're at the point where you're controlling everyone and then there's no one who's real.
Yeah, I mean that's already happening with Illuminati, but
That's true.
uh,
No, it's Joe Rogan. Uh
sure.
in with the time we have left, can we move on
Yes,
from
let's move on.
this?
Okay, number 3. I think this is a interesting thought exercise. It should be pretty short,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
It's called Simulate Until End of Season. Are you familiar with sports games, especially Madden?
Uh those are electronic games that simulate
Yes,
T-sports?
they're
Okay.
they're electronic
Yes, I am
games made by
familiar.
Electronic Arts, actually, generally.
Right, right. Yes, I've played those.
Okay,
I know
so
how
they have a
sports work.
feature. They have a feature. People make jokes about this feature all the time. Actually, like when the game is a blowout, they post the screenshot. It's called Simulate Until End of Season or Until End of Game. Basically, you take your hands off. You don't make any decisions anymore, and the computer kind of just runs the calculations and gives you the outcome. Right.
Right, I've seen that, yeah.
Okay.
And that's like sometimes you actually can watch the game and sometimes
Yeah.
it's just like just give me the result.
So here's your superpower. You have the Simulate Until Time superpower.
Oh.
So
So you can look ahead at how things
no,
turn out.
no. No.
Oh.
Incorrect. Although that would be interesting too. But that is fraught with logical issues. The superpower you have is just that you can tell your body to do, to do what you would normally do, but you get to turn off your brain. That makes sense. So it'd be like,
Okay.
I have a really boring doc to write. It's like, okay, body, simulate
Uh-huh.
until the end of 2 hours. During that 2 hours, your body will perform at like an average performance, maybe slightly above average at the task you give it. It will only do that task. Your brain shuts off. Nothing happens.
So I don't have to
You don't have
experience
to
those
experience
unpleasant
it.
things.
Yeah. But you come back 2 hours later, you're 2 hours older. You don't save time or anything. You just lose 2 hours of your life, but you don't have to experience it.
Right. And I got the colonoscopy and it's over.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that would rock. That would rule. That would
Would
be
it?
great.
Okay,
I would love
I'm
that.
interested. What would you use it on? How often
Yeah.
would you use it?
Uh, hmm. You know, in my old job, I'd probably just like skip work all the time
It's like 8 hours
and
a
just be
day.
like,
Like,
yeah, and just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna skip to the part where I eat and play video games or
hmm
whatever.
hmm
Um, certainly any sort of pain or like doctor related thing, I would skip
okay.
and just be like, yeah, you can do that. Um, does simulate into end of season make me stick to it?
Yeah, it does.
Okay,
More.
because that's different. Like if I could learn the piano or whatever
No, you can. You just
by
don't get to
saying I'm gonna,
experience that time.
yeah. So like every day I lose an
Yeah.
hour, but I get better
Yep.
at piano.
You can be like, hey, do
Yeah,
your
I mean I'd
best.
do that for
Do what you
sure.
would do. Do like piano for an hour. Turn off brain. Come back in an hour.
I mean, yeah. Then I would be much more a bit. It would be much more possible for me to learn a lot of talents
Okay.
and languages and shit like that
Okay.
because in reality, I don't. It's hard or unpleasant enough that I don't stick to it.
Right.
So that's another sort of yeah. Well, what would you do? What would you do, Regan?
So I'm surprised by your answer because I thought most people would come to the conclusion that they would try their hardest not to use it because what you're doing is you're just deleting parts of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're basically shortening your life is essentially
Mm-hmm.
what's happening, right? You're like you get some advantage out of it where you get to not experience some things that you consider to be negative, but at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
you're just shortening your life. The example I thought was like most people use on their commute, right?
Commute. Yeah, yeah, that'd be a good one.
And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, you would be really upset that you have to use it on your commute every day. Or I would be. That's how I feel. I would be like, wow, my commute, like, I literally have to delete, an hour and a half out of my day every day.
Yeah, I'm still losing that
Yeah,
time, but I'm not but I'm coming out of it not being
sure.
furious and
Yeah, right. But you're still
keyed up.
like, because I don't know. I feel like there's, if you value the time you have in your life, then I think you should value experiencing it, right? The thing,
Interesting.
the
You think I wouldn't build character as a result?
no, I don't think it's that. I think it'd just be like, wow, I really hated that experience that much that I was willing to just shut it off, and I'm doing this all the time. Shouldn't I just the conclusion I would reach is like, shouldn't I just like plan my life better so I don't have to do this anymore? I mean, there's some things you have to do, right? But
I
if you're
mean, there's
so
some things like, all right, I'm gonna get a root canal
yeah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah. So
I'm
like
gonna
things
get
like
a
health
medical
things
procedure.
like surgeries or procedures, yeah, that's unavoidable. Like that would be a good use, right? But for
But
things
you're
that you
you're
would do on
talking
the
about like
daily,
repeatable
yeah,
things, like
exactly.
daily repeatable things. That yeah, I see the distinction there.
Right,
It's like maybe I should just like change if I already hate this so
right.
much. But it's like if I'm in a job I hate but I'm making a lot of money, I mean the my history shows that I would do
So let
that,
me
you
ask you
know?
a question. Let me ask you a
Uh-huh.
question. So let's say you're 22
Mm-hmm.
and you could simulate until the end of your career because you hated your whole job. Would you do that? Like simulate 16 years or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's too much because there's other things in there that I want.
Right.
It's not just if you're saying simulate every work day,
Okay.
I could consider that, but I also had some good days and had
Right.
had friends there and stuff like
Right.
that.
You
So
wouldn't do that, right? I think that's quite obvious.
yeah, I wouldn't do the whole thing, but I would probably fall into a pattern of like skipping work.
Yeah, and here let's if we shrink it down a little bit, right? It's like, okay, would you before you started your first day of work, would you simulate that day? You wouldn't, right? You at least give it a
No.
chance, I think, to see what it's like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I think so well, I guess we can keep going. So what if you get in to a job that you feel is really negative and you want to move on? Like would you still simulate you will probably simulate that job, right? But
If it was giving me the benefits that I wanted
mhm.
for the rest of my life, I might simulate it, but you know, if not, I would have to work towards just getting something else going, right?
Right. I think
Maybe
that's
I'd simulate the job search,
yeah. You can try. Yeah. I would
simulate
say
the interviews.
yeah. The caveat of this is that like you kind of have to stay focused on one task, and you're not really that good at it. You're just like average, your own average at it. So that's where uh,
Yeah, so it would do like I would perform however I would
yeah,
perform, right?
like on average, not like your best day, just like you were pretty
Sure,
focused
sure.
and you sort of did what you did.
Yeah, and then yeah, I would simulate job searches. I would
Yeah,
simulate interviews. Like I don't nail every interview, but
right,
I do them well enough.
right.
So I
um
trust me to do that while I go play Zelda.
well, you don't get to play Zelda though, right? You just lose that time.
Yeah, later that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a I think for almost except for like things where you're like in pain or having a procedure or a one-time thing. Um
Yeah, or like my father-in-law is visiting. I'd skip
right,
that.
yeah. Yeah. For anything repeatable, I would have if I was using this on a regular basis, I would seriously think about why I'm doing this and shouldn't I just
Yeah, why
quit
am I
and go
not
somewhere?
changing
Yeah,
this thing I have to
exactly.
do every I'm not doing every day.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that makes sense. I get that.
that's where so for me
Um
like I it makes me think a lot about like people's commutes and how like or let me put it this way, like if you could just instead of simulating that time, if you could just simulate that time but also do something else, like you could send a clone, right, instead of simulating it,
hmm
but you get to keep your attention, like how much money would you pay for that? I feel like
a
a
lot.
lot, right? So
I mean, that would cover. I mean, that's like everything,
yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
it's just
And that's what makes
yeah.
me think about the commute, right? It's like I in the future I feel like I already do this actually, but I'm willing to just pay a lot more money to have a short commute just because um like
Yeah, I
think about
mean,
how
if you
much
can
money you
afford
would
it, then
pay, right, to
that
have
translates to like moving to a more
yeah,
expensive place that's
exactly.
closer to work, right?
Exactly. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
there's other things like this too, like if you hate washing the dishes or you hate cleaning the house, like you can just pay money. Like it's not
hmm
worth your
hmm
time, right? Just pay money to have someone do it for you. It's not, you know,
Yep.
um, your time is
But I
worth.
mean, then
Yeah.
you always got to balance that against the realities of money
Well,
and
yeah, of course. It's
in
talking
real
about
life.
us, right? Like we have the money to make these kind of decisions. Um,
Yeah. But it's like yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I'm not confident that if I started doing that a lot, that I would have enough money to continue that as long as I want.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's also true. That's the thing where it's like if you're only average all the time, it's you're gonna have a hard time getting promoted, right? Like you're sort of just coasting. Um,
Uh, wait, I'm not sure I followed
oh,
that.
like because when you're simulating, you're only performing at like an average level, your own average level, right?
Oh, okay, okay.
So
Sure.
you're
Right.
if you want to be hyper focused on progressing your career or whatever, you probably don't want to leave that up to the clone you, right? You probably want
Yes,
to
because in this, yes, it works like Madden in that it's
yeah,
sort of an average
yeah.
simulation.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I would probably do it for certain painful things, but I see your point about the everyday thing. I would have to seriously question my what I was doing if I was
right,
skipping at work every day, eight
right.
hours or more. I would at the time I would probably have done that
Yeah.
though.
I mean, there's days I would have done it too, but I think you also get in a point where like if you do it 10 days in a row, you start like losing your mind a bit, right? You're like, what am I doing? Can I ever go back? Like I am,
Yeah, could I handle going back if
yeah,
I kept simulating it? That's something. Yeah, do I have the memories of that day, or is it like
yeah,
I have
that's a
to
good
go in
question.
and figure out what I did yesterday?
I guess I
That
guess you
starts to
have
be
like some of the
problematic.
memories, like a portion of them, but not like everything in
Yeah,
detail.
I get a report at the end.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
did
I
this
think that
stuff.
would be good. But I think another thing is like, a lot of times in life you want to live for the positive moments, right? Like even if your job was terrible, you want to seek out like friends you can talk to or whatever, and you find value in those things later in life.
Yes, I'd
In
be I'd be
retrospect.
giving up
Yeah,
opportunities, right? Like
exactly.
that happened during that waking time. So yeah, it's a good point. Maybe I wouldn't even use it at all because of that fear. I'd still skip the dentist and
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure. Dentist, 100%. No one. Dentists should really just implement this feature. Like,
Yeah, they really should. I'd pay more. They with commutes, I'd if I was skipping commutes, I'd miss a whole lot of podcasts.
oh,
So
that's
that's something
true.
to consider. Wouldn't listen to open betas, available wherever you get your podcasts.
All right. I think we've reached a good point on simulation. Any
Yeah, that was
other?
fun.
Yeah.
There are other powers I want to discuss, but I don't know. We can do it some other time
All right.
because
Sounds good.
they're all kind of interesting to me. Like thinking out of how you would manage
I've
to
thought up.
live a
I've
life.
thought kind of in depth. So I used to. So speaking of commutes, when I took the bus back, I got really
Hmm.
bored because it would be like an hour
Hmm.
and a half bus ride, and I thought in depth
Oof.
about how exactly I would handle invisibility and what all the problems were.
Oh sure, yeah. I'd fantasize about
Yeah.
this shit all the time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Invisibility is tough. Like, do objects you pick up become invisible? Can I wear clothes that are
Yep.
invisible? What about my footprints? Like,
Hmm.
if I'm in a carpeted area, are people gonna notice my feet?
Yep.
Do I have to be naked? I also want to talk about what you do with a death note sometimes. Maybe you would do
I would
nothing,
do
but
nothing. I think that's.
I would do so much.
Uh,
Uh, all right. This was fun. Good work.
yep.
Okay.
Thanks for
Uh,
podcasting.
yeah, thanks for podcasting, everybody. This was the life of games, and the game of life. This is really gaming life, right here.
This is pretty much the game of life. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. If I had 3 save spots, I'd definitely save like a hedonistic time
Oh yeah.
as
It's
one of them
actually
for sure.
one would just be as early as possible, and the second one would be like after you win the lottery, and the third one you can just do whatever you want. You can have like the greatest
Yeah,
life every run. It would actually be fun. Like
yeah.
it would. It takes a lot of the interesting discussion out of it, but it would just be a much better experience, right? You'd just be like you could just do what you wanted pretty much.
Oh, it'd be way better. Yeah, there's way less worry,
the
right?
The first one is like an Iron Man run of a game, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
but if you have more than one save, then you have all the benefits of saving in games that we discussed, which is like
Yep.
you can actually just have fun and do what you want.
Yeah, you can experiment. You can do whatever the fuck. Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks for listening
Yep.
to Open Betas, the podcast about superpowers.
Yep. That's
I have
our
been
theme,
Swimfan,
and I am Regal for now.
and remember,
To
if
spay
you're
and
gonna
neuter
play a
your
game,
pets. Oh, sorry.
yeah, spay and neuter your pets. Oh, did you used to watch Price is
I
Right?
did. Yes.
Yeah, me. That's a good sick day home from school show.
Yep. I used to watch a lot
Yeah.
of game shows and TV actually.
Oh, me too. I love game shows.
Oh, we could talk about game shows. Actually, I guess it's pretty obvious that I love game
That's a game.
shows because I make so many of them.
Yeah, you actually create them. The show of games. Yeah. All right. Well, remember everybody, if you're gonna play a video game, fuck, I fucked it up. All right. See you next time.
Okay. All right. See ya.
No. I'm doing it.
Okay,
Hey,
okay.
edit point.
All right.
He's Regal and I'm Swimfan. And remember, if you're gonna play a game, do it on video. Good night, folks.